podcast.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a
Podcast.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and
Podcast.
and I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, welcome to Get to the Podcast. Let's get to the podcast with the number 2. You know what I'm saying? My name.
Should we say hello to your little friend?
Okay, that's not the name of the podcast. You kind of ruined my intro.
Okay, go ahead. Do it. Well, you just lost your accent at the end of that sentence. Go
I
ahead.
was trying to. Well, fuck you. Let me start over. Everybody, listen. Here we go.
I'm listening.
Okay, welcome to Get to the Podcast. Let's get to the podcast with the number 2. Say hello to my little friends.
Oh, I just got called a little friend.
Okay, well, you should have said your name. Because now you fucking ruined it a second time. Take 3. Hey, I'm going to pull a Clint Eastwood. I'm doing this one more time.
Okay. All right. I don't even know what that means. Go ahead.
Okay. Welcome to Get to the
Oh, 3 takes. I get it.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Get to the Podcast. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
Did you try to jump me?
I thought that you were gonna talk like Clint Eastwood, and then
No, he meant 3 takes.
No,
I was going to do the 3
When you
takes,
said
yeah.
that, I was
No,
like,
we're
oh,
good.
okay. I was so confused. I was like, why? But that's not what Clint.
40
Eastwood
minutes later, we get to the podcast.
Okay, this fucking shit got too complicated. I don't do complicated. I just fucking
do
shoot
Clint
you.
Eastwood. Do Clint Eastwood.
I don't know if I can do. I don't know how the fuck you talk.
How about you just got to do Dirty Harry?
Yeah, just do Dirty Harry.
I don't remember his line.
You don't.
Honestly, right now,
you
I
gotta
don't
ask
What's the
remember.
line? It's like
Ask
Ask yourself, do I feel lucky?
Do I feel lucky?
Well, do you? Do you?
Do you punk?
Punk. I love how he
Oh,
grits
this is
his
good.
teeth in that when he says punk. Do you? Punk. He's just
Nothing
like,
is over.
Sly.
No. I didn't come into this war. You asked me.
Yeah. First Blood. John Rambo.
That
Rambo.
was good. Yeah.
That was
I don't
good.
want to be
Oh, that's, a
here.
good, that's a nice segue.
I don't
Nice
get it.
segue.
I mean, we were just talking about like we went from Robert.
How about this? The greatest marriage proposal in cinema history. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind marrying me so much. Rocky to Adrian and Rocky 2.
That was the best.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much.
I just wondering if
This is
you
why-
wouldn't mind marrying me.
Yeah,
too
he's
much.
like he's approachable.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
he's
saying.
that-
He,
yeah.
he creates that like approachable guy thing.
Yeah.
It's just
you know?
that word too much. I was
Yeah.
like, that is just the best. Like,
It's got to be a Philly thing. I got to talk to some Philly people.
Yeah, there
so
you
all
go.
right, we're kicking it back up with part 2 of action films, and we're gonna hit the latter 80s, 90s,
Yep.
2000s, and maybe we'll keep going a little bit. We'll see where we end
Yeah,
up.
let's try
Yeah.
not to push this into a part 3 because this is the
Yeah.
evolution of action films part 2.
Yeah.
Last time we ended off in the 80s. I think we one thing we didn't really
about
talk.
Sylvester Stallone and
Over the top
Over
arm
the Top,
wrestling.
yeah.
I love that movie.
But we also, what we didn't really talk about was kind of the evolution or the inception of action comedies or even buddy cops.
That's true.
Comedy, buddy cop films, because that really came to form in the 80s,
Yeah.
with Beverly Hills Cop, even
48
Hours,
Hours,
which was
yeah.
Eddie Murphy's first film, him and Nick Nolte. That was
What's
kind
that
of...
one? Bird on a Wire or something like that?
Bird
Oh,
on a
Bird on a
Wire,
Wire
yeah.
with,
That was an awesome
Mel
film.
Gibson
Mel
and Goldie
Gibson, yeah.
Hawn.
Yeah.
Yep.
that was a great
Which one
film.
are you thinking of?
What was the one? Oh, am I thinking of one with Is there one with like Kurt Russell? Oh yeah. that-
Overboard.
Overboard.
Not an
No,
action
no, no.
film,
There's
though.
an action one with Kurt Russell and
Big Trouble in Little China?
No, it's Kurt Russell and
God
Sylvester
damn
Oh, I know.
Stallone.
Talking about.
It's
Oh,
like
Tango and Cash.
Tango and
Cash.
Cash. There
Yes.
it is.
I love that
All
movie.
those movies
What
you listed before
about
are good
what
movies
about
too.
Turner and Hooch?
Turner and Hooch with the dog. Tom
yeah,
Hanks.
Tom
Tom
Hanks,
Hanks.
yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so
That-
so
There are
I
a lot
mean,
of buddy cop dog movies.
Yeah, so
where
some of
it's a
these are
guy
more
and a
action
dog.
films than others. I mean, Turner and Hooch definitely, I guess, would be an action comedy, but
Yeah.
it seems to be more leaning towards the comedy. Whereas you look at Beverly Hills
Oh,
Cop.
Lethal Weapon. We didn't mention that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about exactly. Again, another buddy cop film. But I would say that Beverly Hills Cop was more, that's definitely action comedy because there's a lot about the action, focuses on the action, the shootouts, the fights, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was definitely an action comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a heavy, dark
There's
film.
like a little bit of humor. What are we talking about?
No,
Lethal
Beverly Hills
Weapon?
Cop.
Oh, Beverly Hills Cop.
What the fuck
yeah,
are you
yeah.
talking about?
Sorry, I jumped.
You're
I thought-
doing a Tiago. You're pulling a Tiago where you're like just researching shit on your phone, and you're like, yeah, I totally agree. Superman was fantastic.
Wait, what are we talking about?
No, but Beverly Hills Cop. I'm
This
talking
fucking
about
asshole.
Beverly Hills Cop. 48 Hours. I would say that. Okay, this is not like statistically proven or anything. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of pulling this out of my ass. But Eddie Murphy was a big part of this action comedy genre.
You mean the
Kinda
start of
kick
it?
Off. Yeah. I mean, if you look at 48 Hours, which was 1982.
Yeah.
And which was dark but had comedy in it. But Beverly Hills Cop was even more comedy in it, but definitely kept that action balance. There's a lot of action in Beverly Hills Cop. It's absolutely an action comedy. I would say he was like a big part of that genre or that subgenre kicking off.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you think of things
yeah,
before
think
Eddie
about
Murphy's?
in the 70s when, you think about these like cop action films like
French Connection.
I can't,
Yeah.
but they weren't humorous. They
No.
were not funny.
No, 'cause
They were,
you
like
needed-
serious dramas.
Right, you needed a comedian, a guy with good comic timing to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Like you would have, in 81, you had Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I would never classify that as an action comedy, even though there's
No.
plenty of humor in it. But it's different than Eddie Murphy coming in, who's a stand-up comedian and from SNL, and then stepping into the action world.
Right.
And also being able to pull off an action, star quality. He said in 48 Hours, and ever since then, one of the things he does, he channels whenever he's doing a serious look for an action where he's got the gun pointed and aimed. He says who he's channeling is Bruce Lee. The look, he's like, you might not be able to see Bruce Lee, but in my mind, I'm being Bruce Lee at that moment with the focused eyes. And
Yeah, his eyes
and,
are
and the
different.
intensity.
Yeah.
In that scene at the end of 48 Hours where he's going through the mist, in the alleyway, and he's got the gun point. He said that was his first movie. He was like 20 years old. He was like, that's what I was doing. I was
Right.
being Bruce Lee because I needed a reference point for my character.
Yeah.
But so he was a comedian who's able to step into an action role, and I think that kind of defined the action comedy. And then later on, you were able to do Lethal Weapon. I wouldn't call that an action comedy. More of just a buddy cop flick.
Well, it's comedic, and so I
don't know.
I mean, there are
fits there.
elements.
It's
Tango
in
and
there.
Cash felt. I don't know.
There are
They're
elements.
action-
It's as
It's
funny
almost
as
like
like
if-
Die Hard is funny.
It's
like Die Hard
comedy.
has like
Yes.
a handful of like.
But you would
clever,
never call them
funny
action
moments.
comedy.
So
You would
what are
just
you
call them
saying? Are you
action.
saying the jokes make it a comedy, or are you saying the interaction between the? Because I think of buddy cop films like Lethal Weapon, I think that is comedic. It's their interactions it's a comic relief within the film.
But you wouldn't.
I think it's like
classify it as
the
comedy.
rate of jokes.
Yeah,
like
because
the number of jokes.
Because
in
Axel
one of these
Foley
films.
is doing fucking characters. He's like walking in the second one in Beverly Hills Cop 2.
I mean,
he's
it's
walking
serious,
in with
but
that
he's a
bag
goofy
of
character.
vitamins and acting like it's like a bomb.
Yeah.
like he's doing characters and he's delivering jokes and he does the banana in the tailpipe, like all that. And, we won't fall for a banana in the tailpipe. He's doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas when you watch some of these other films, there's humor in it, almost like Raiders of the Lost Ark has humor.
I mean, even in like the Bond films, you have James Bond always saying some like cliche quote after
Yeah.
he kills somebody or something.
One-liners.
It's like the one-liners, which people probably took as like a break in the seriousness of the film, I guess.
yeah,
But it's not a
there's that
comedy.
in every film. There's always a break within scenes and stuff.
No,
something
man, I've seen
happening.
some films that are
but-
just sad from the beginning to the
But I
end.
Yeah,
But I
true.
think-
Cobra, for instance, is not.
I
a
fucking love that film.
Cobra.
Just wanted to jump that
Sylvester
in.
Stallone. That's not an action comedy.
That is not an action. comedy.
Although, fucking blow your mind, blow your tits off for a second. That movie developed from Beverly Hills Cop.
yeah,
Sylvester Stallone was originally cast in Beverly Hills Cop. He was going to be the star of that film, and he helped develop the script and was writing it.
Correct.
And then basically it came to the point where it wasn't working. Like there was creative differences. He left, and then they got Eddie Murphy, and then they retooled the whole concept of the film and the way it was going to play out.
Yeah.
And Sylvester Stallone went and took all his ideas he developed for that movie and made them into the movie Cobra.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that literally was originally
Cobra
his
was
idea for Beverly
incredible.
Hills Cop. Yeah.
I
But
don't
see,
think
that's
I've
what
ever
I'm
seen
saying.
Cobra.
I
Oh,
don't-
really? It's dark.
Yeah.
It's a dark movie. There's not a lot of comedy in that.
There's literally like not. Well, I don't think there's just like romantic like things between him and.
Yeah, which
what's
is
his
like
name?
in any action
Yeah,
film.
but I don't think there's any comedy in that. I
Not
think that's
really. There's
totally
a little
different.
humor
but
here and there,
But back to Lethal Weapon, I still think that has a subgenre in comedy just because of Mel Gibson and his interactions.
And Shane Black, who
And-
wrote the script, always puts a lot of humor. He
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
Kiss
So
Kiss
I
Bang
I will
Bang.
say, like, the fourth one especially is like the funniest out of all
Yeah.
of them. I think,
Yeah.
personally, like,
So I
that
think-
one has a lot more humor than any of the other films.
Beverly Hill
Yes.
Cops will.
Chris Rock's in it, and Joe Pesci like really plays up his.
Oh yeah,
his role.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think
forgot Chris
Beverly
Rock
Hill
was in it.
Cops
Damn.
is a comedic action film.
Yeah.
I think Lethal Weapon is an action film with subgenres like comedy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's how, to me, that's how it fits, because I think Mel Gibson, he's funny in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy in there, so you can't say.
You know what's interesting about that? Like Die Hard 3, I feel like has a lot more humor in it with Samuel Jackson than Die Hard 2 or 1. Those first 2 Die Hard films you can watch, and there's like a handful of like humorous scenes, but it's more like, you know, like 1,000 people died in those movies or whatever. But in Die Hard 3, that movie was funny. That movie was so funny to me when I saw that in theaters. Like I was like, you know, I was thrilled, and
he had somebody to play off of.
Yeah,
because in the first
exactly.
2 he didn't. He was alone in the first 2. This is the first time he's teamed up with
I
somebody.
mean, there
else.
were like a handful of, I mean, not the first one, but in the second one, there were a couple characters, like the janitor guy, and
Dennis Franz's character. Yeah, but again, they were just little interactions here and there. For the most part, he was solo.
Yeah,
you know.
But like Red Heat, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And
Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi.
Yeah,
that was comedic. That was. It
but
was
Jim
very
Belushi
dark.
was a comedian. He came from Saturday Night Live. It's John Belushi's younger brother. That's the thing. I think it's when the difference is when you take a comedian and you put him in an action role, he's going to bring his comedic sensibilities. He's going to basically be expected to be a comedian in an action world.
Yeah.
And then when you have an action star who then delivered jokes, he's still an action star who's delivering humor, and it flips.
Right.
You know, like if you look at, moving into the 90s slightly, 1991, another movie written by Shane Black, directed by Tony Scott, was Last Boy Scout.
Right.
Okay? The funniest guy in that movie is Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
Comes from a comedic background. He was a stand-up. He was on SNL. He was on In Living Color.
Yeah, and Bruce Willis is like the straight.
Yeah, more of the straight man. Though he has some humorous things, the jokes or the funnier parts of that movie are coming from, and even the funnier one-liners or zingers are coming from Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Double Impact with, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme playing off of
JCVD.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Goddamn masterpiece.
I mean, he's no Seagal, but
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Oh my gosh, I hate you when you say that.
God damn you. We already had this fight. If you want to know what we're talking about, go check out our Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Steven Seagal episode where I spanked Neil's ass.
For the first time ever,
Figuratively,
I was
not
on
literally.
Nick's side.
Yes.
And I was not on Neil's side.
There's several things in the 80s before we jump to the 90s we should also mention. All the Jean-Claude Van Damme films, all the Steven Seagal films.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
RoboCop is another series that we didn't
Oh
talk about.
my
That's
goodness.
true,
You know,
Sci-fi.
yeah, these sci-fi
Action,
action
yeah.
films, yeah.
Which had always been around.
Gritty, very
yeah.
gritty.
Dude,
Huh?
Aliens.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, oh my God.
Sci-fi action, too. Let's just lump all those into these sci-fi action
Yeah.
films.
All the Rambo films.
Yeah.
I'm pretty, well, I think 1 and 2. Did 3
Rambo.
come out
First
in
Blood.
90?
First Blood was what? Which one?
Did Rambo 3 for...
It may have been 90.
Ooh, Black Rain.
Oh, I
Black
love
Rain,
that.
Michael
Ridley Scott,
Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
Yeah,
and,
Michael Douglas.
The guy, I don't remember.
I don't
Andy
remember
Garcia's in it,
Andy
though. But Ridley Scott directed that. I love that movie.
That was
That
a
movie is
great
almost
film.
like a film noir with
It
like
definitely
more
is.
action.
It feels
Yeah.
more in line. I know this sounds strange, but like with Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Whenever I
it does.
watch Black Rain, I'm like, there's so many elements of Blade Runner in this, even though it's modern
It's
day.
the trench coats.
I don't. It's just. It's
It's not-
also
it's the host-
L.A.
it's-
L.A. and Blade Runner felt like Tokyo in the
Yeah.
80s to me. Like I look at it, and that's what I see.
I'm telling you, it's the trench coats.
No, it's all the
And the
sunrises.
rain.
And,
It's
it's
the
all
rain
the
and the trench
sunrises and sun going down
Yeah.
shots in that film.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so.
It was very.
It's a really good film, though. I
very
love
great
that
film,
one.
Yeah.
But just sticking on the general evolution of action films. So yeah, I think we saw the action comedy at that point.
Yeah, and Star Wars, man. I mean, it was Star Wars in
Yeah, we saw
77, and then Empire Strikes
80.
Back is 1980.
Yeah, and then '83 was Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's
we
a-
had a lot of sci-fi films. Just
They're
kind
not
of
really like action star films.
By the
though,
way-
but
but they are action films.
Yeah.
It's not about the action star. It's about
more
the
like
action film.
adventure, though.
But yeah, action adventure. They're still like action films though. Come on, we started talking about Harold Lloyd and
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin in the 20s just because they had a lot of stunt.
But it was
You
like that. It was based on an individual. Like when I think of Star Wars, my mind doesn't go to Harrison Ford or Mark Hamill. I don't think like in terms of like I don't associate Star Wars with an individual. I
Right.
associate it with like a.
But we're not
ensemble
really
cast.
just talking about the individuals. We're trying to talk about the evolution of action films in general, like how
Yeah.
the genres and how they break down and how they've
Yeah.
evolved. But yeah, the 80s saw a lot more spectacle.
Before we
I
leave,
kind of want to. I wish I had sent it to Diego, but I had sent you this this video I'd found about the editing of Star Wars,
How it was
and I was
staged in
like,
the
"Is
edit.
this
That
real?"
was amazing.
Yeah.
I could not believe that was a real.
I've heard stories of that. Like
Like the
okay,
movies.
what you're referring to real
it
quick
was
is
completely different.
This
Anyway,
is-
it's just a total.
why don't you just
aside,
put it in
but-
group chat, okay? Stop having your fucking
Did
private
I
chat.
send it?
from-
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
real quick.
I'll send it to
you.
you.
Sent
I'll
it
send
to me
you.
and Matt is what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. real quick, that was a movie. It was about the first Star Wars, which was 77, but that was a great video you found on YouTube that was how Star Wars was saved in the edit. And some of these stories I'd heard before, like the first screening of Star Wars to a bunch of his filmmaker friends, George Lucas showed it to Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
And it was not well received.
Yeah.
They were like, what is this? And Brian De Palma, famously was just like, what the hell? I don't understand what's happening. Like, this is crap. What is all this?
Yeah.
And they showed like what the original kind of cut had. There was all these extraneous
all this
scenes.
content on Tatooine in the beginning of the film with all these other characters that were never in
interspliced
the
with like
original
the things
cut.
that were
The
going
final cut.
on up in space with Darth Vader and Leia and it was kind of being intercut with these personal stories of Luke on the planet.
Yeah.
So you saw him a lot earlier on than you see him in the final cut of the film.
Yeah.
And there was just all these things, and the initial crawl in the beginning of the film was just like so much data. It was
like
so
5
long.
times longer than it was originally.
It was explaining all these things about the Jedi and all these things you didn't need to be. It was a lot of exposition, basically.
Things that you find out later in the film.
And basically, you find out that he got these editors and they saved the film. They completely reworked sequences. They actually tricked some things where you think, reaction shots are from different parts of the films are added to other parts of the films.
The thing that blew my mind was the final part of the original Star Wars, episode 4, the original film, like the final scene where they're attacking the Death Star and the Death Star is getting ready to fire onto.
All reworked.
Was like that wasn't even in the original film. They didn't even film it that way.
Yeah.
That was all in editing. They made it so
he goes through that like 3 times trying to shoot this thing.
Yeah, the film ends with the Rebel Alliance attacking the Death Star and just killing everyone on the Death Star under no threat.
Yeah.
The Death Star is not about to blow up anything.
There's no like
that was
countdown.
never filmed. That was never part of the film. And it was George Lucas's wife that came up with the idea. She's like, well, we need to have like the audience.
We need stakes here.
Yeah, we need stakes. There need to be high stakes. Like they're attacking, the Rebel Alliance is attacking the Death Star.
They're about to blow up the planet,
because
which the Rebel
we're
Alliance,
all about to die.
The Rebel
Like,
Alliance is
but
on
that
a planet.
wasn't how he
them.
filmed it.
Yeah.
It was like this weird. We're just attacking it and we're murdering all these people on
there was
this,
no tension.
this spaceship or whatever.
There was
I don't
no
know.
tension whatsoever, and they edited it together. Like those scenes, even the action and like the reaction shots in that scene where they're all worried and tense and everything like that, were from other scenes.
It was
in the
other
movie.
scenes to completely different contexts.
That's crazy.
It is actually
Yeah, send me a
bananas.
link. I want to see that.
It was a
Yeah.
great video, and
see
it really showed the importance of editing, where it's sort of like, yes, you hear mostly about the actor's performance and the writing and the directing.
You could completely change.
You
the
could
film.
change. Yeah, they say that a movie is written in 3 phases: the initial script, on the set of the film, and then in the editing room. You could completely change the sequence, the feeling, the beats of the movie, all in editing. It's really great. But
Total side. Sorry,
Yeah,
that has
totally.
nothing to do with what we're talking about, really. I mean, a little bit, but
Good Star Wars podcast there, people. Great job. No, I'm
anyways,
just
the
kidding.
80s saw a lot more spectacle, whereas the 70s kind of launched it with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And in 81, we saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. We have Aliens, which just took Alien to a whole new level and made it more of a sci-fi action adventure,
favorite.
not just a slow burn
Yeah.
horror film. But
that's
it became,
also my favorite.
It became an action film.
It became an action film. The first one's not really an action
Me and
film.
Diego
Very
watch
little.
that movie like on a daily basis.
Dude, I know. That's my breakfast.
It's great.
It gets me through the day.
It's a great
By the way,
film.
before we leave the 80s, I was just doing some research like I always do, so shut the fuck up, Nick.
Because you don't listen.
I do listen. No, I just want to give credit to one film that a lot of people don't talk about, and it was with Clint Eastwood, and was one of the first films the action films that came out in the 80s. No, actually, 1982. It was Firefox.
Oh, I don't remember that movie very much.
What?
Firefox. I remember that. I
It
remember,
was-
but I don't remember if I've ever seen it. I may have seen it.
It's about the stealth. He was a stealth fighter
pilot
with that
or
new
whatever, yeah.
technology ship, and he
God,
was
I
going
feel like I've
against
heard of
Russia.
this movie.
Yeah, it was a great film. It's like you rarely see him in those type of roles. It was
Yeah.
like around that time it was a lot of westerns, and this was something totally different for him to do.
Yeah,
it was actually a good film. And if you have not seen it, I think you guys should see
Yeah,
it.
though he did come back with another Western in the 80s. In 85, I think it was, Pale Rider.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
mostly outside of like,
And he had a couple more Dirty Harry movies.
yeah,
in the
Dirty
80s.
Harry's and Bad Cop. Just gritty.
The
He
Rookie,
was
yeah.
actually yeah.
Yeah.
This film you guys should watch it.
Just a couple honorable mentions. Chuck Norris made a ton of films in the 80s.
Delta Force.
Yeah, and also an amazing film called Invasion USA, which I
Yeah.
think is now on Netflix.
It is on
it
Netflix.
a
It was
canon
one of those.
film?
It's one of those canon
That's
films
amazing.
where it's like Chuck Norris against.
It's like Red Dawn.
an entire military force, like single-handedly, and it's like there was definitely like with association with production houses like Canon Films. You had all these action movies that were coming out that were just so ridiculous.
All the Death Wish sequels.
They were just like
the
insane. It was
best.
kind of like the spaghetti western era, like where
Yeah.
you had all these Italians making westerns, like what they interpreted as an American western film.
Yeah.
But it had something was like off about it, but it made it appealing because it was so different. And
But
that's
those
the
were
same
at least
thing with action
were
films.
rooted in reality. These movies were just like
They were they were outlandish. They were like, but they took a lot of like these. They were for the first time they were trying to like take these martial arts films and then bring it to like an American martial artist or something.
Yeah.
And we had never seen stuff
which
like that
is what
before.
Chuck Norris was all about, and,
Yeah.
and even Van Damme, though he wasn't an American, but that was the idea. He was making American films, and you brought these martial artists, Steven Seagal.
You had like American Ninja and stuff through
American Ninja, which
Yeah.
I love those movies. There was a great movie.
Yeah.
This wasn't an American star, but Revenge of the Ninja with God, what was his name? Sho Kyogi or whatever. Revenge of the Ninja. It was the Ninja trilogy, which was also Canon Films, but Revenge of the Ninja was so good, and it was a ninja who came from Japan and moved to America, and then just some of the troubles and the things that happened there kind of. He ends up getting engaged in here, and he's kind of trying to save his son. It's a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
Um,
You also had films like Kickboxer.
Kickboxer, Van Damme. What am I wearing right now? Bloodsport shirt.
Oh yeah,
right?
Kumite.
Kumite, champion.
Kumite.
But then you had. Then you had. You even had lesser known stars like
Death Wish films.
Death Wish shows. You also had lesser known stars. Jeff Speakman. You remember this guy, Jeff Speakman? He was an American martial artist. He did Perfect Weapon. You ever see that movie?
No.
The movie starts off with
sounds familiar. I don't-
that song by Snap. It's getting kind
kinda
of
heavy.
hectic.
Yes!
It's getting kind of hectic. I got the power. He literally, the movie starts with him kind of working out and doing his whole fucking martial arts routine to that song.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the shit right here. He did that. He did Street Night in the early 90s. Then you also had like Alex the Dragon Wilson.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of these. They were all very B movie.
Yeah.
And they were Canon Films basically.
Let's take that and segue into the 90s.
Yes.
'Cause
Okay.
that's where we are.
So a
'Cause
lot
we
of
just
them.
spent-
This is all
Oh,
late
yeah, I
80s.
just got
This
early
is
more.
the
90s.
longest.
I feel like it
this
never
is-
ends. There's so
wait,
many
wait a second.
amazing action
There's
films.
so many action films in the 80s. It's hard to talk about them all. But we have spent 20 fucking minutes
Have we?
trying to start part
Well, I
2,
feel like
and
2000
we're still part
Okay, we
1.
gotta
There's
get
two
that
more.
quick.
Two more.
Okay,
Two more.
Romancing the Stone.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
I love with Michael Douglas and
Michael
Kathleen
Douglas,
Turner
And
and
Danny DeVito and Robert Zemeckis directed it.
Robert Zemeckis. Amazing film. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And
A
the
very
the
Indiana
Goonies.
Jones-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ish.
Even though we're
Different.
talking about, we're not really talking about like individuals that were kind of promoted into action films, but you had films like The Goonies, which is kind of like an action film. It was
Yeah,
like the
for
beginning
kids.
of that. Yeah, that like
E.T. was really
kids
the kind of like the inception
E.T.
point of
also
that.
came out in the 80s.
Yeah, 82, and then 3 years later was
Although
Goonies. in
E.T. to me
85.
seems a
All
little
right,
less.
hey.
Goonies.
You
That's
keep
true.
back 2 years, 2 films, and we're now at E.T.
But he brought up E.T. He brought it up. I didn't figure it out.
What the fuck? How did we
All
get
right.
to action film to E.T.?
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
You know, a film like The Goonies brought about all these like, you know, this whole genre of like kid action films.
We're fucking like a Wikipedia
The reason why I
wormhole,
say
man.
E.T.,
What the
I know, this is
we're like a
like-
Wikipedia
Some people don't know.
wormhole.
Some people like have never. There's a whole generation of people that probably never seen The Goonies that are watching Stranger Things and are like, "This is so original." And
I know,
you're like,
dude.
"All
It was
right,
same with E.T. A
gotta
couple
calm
years
down."
ago.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I took my niece and my nephew, who were at the time were like 13, 14 or whatever. I took them. I sat their asses down and I'm like, we're watching E.T. We watched E.T. and they were like, that's a good film. I'm like, this shit's like 30 years older than you. I'm so glad you're finally watching it. But like, it was the inception point. E.T. The reason why I say that's more of the inception point, if you even think of the end when they're all on their bikes and they're driving, riding away from the cops, a lot of that kind of like feel and that camaraderie amongst kids doing their own thing and protecting and doing against what the adults' wishes are.
Yeah.
That came from E.T.
Yeah.
Before you say your second film, let me just
Oh no, I'm
Oh,
done.
no,
I'm
we
done.
did, like,
we
Are you
can
done?
we can move into the 90s
because I was
Unless
just
you have
gonna go
another film.
previously on Get to the Podcast, and then you can go. Because I mean, it's just
Because we're gonna have to break this
Well,
into a third goddamn
I
part.
mean, since you say,
No,
Look at this
you
motherfucker.
know,
right,
I mean,
I'm gonna hit
anyways,
one
you
in the
have
90s.
Batman, the original Batman, with
1990s.
Michael Keaton.
89.
I don't know if we mentioned
1990s.
that.
Ready? Go.
Did we jump
into-
Superman in
Red
78?
Dawn. We did jump Superman.
And
Yeah.
Red, God, stop saying movies.
Stop,
Red Dawn.
stop, stop. Here we go. We're gonna start with Hunt for the Red October.
Oh, that's 1990. Yeah. Well,
Yep.
Die Hard 2 was also. But yeah, Hunt for Red October, which is the initial. What is
Above
this?
the law.
All right, we're good.
This
we're good, we're
fucker.
good.
What the-
Steven Seagal.
That was his first film.
Yeah.
Above the Law. Anyway.
88, right?
Yeah, 88.
Okay. God damn.
But he's more of a 90s child.
I
so.
know.
But hey,
no,
this
no.
is what's
We
hard.
gotta talk a lot about Steven Seagal now.
No, we don't. No, we
Because
don't.
we're
no,
in
we
the
don't.
90s.
Hunt for the Red October. Let's move
So,
forward.
Hunt for Red October
Sean
was
Connery. We
Jack,
gotta talk about Sean
Jack
Connery.
Ryan. Jack Ryan. Who directed Hunt for Red October again? It's
Here, let me pull it up.
fuck. Who is that? That was because Jack.
John McTiernan.
John McTiernan. Yeah.
John
Did you know
McTiernan,
this?
yeah.
Predator, Die Hard.
Yeah.
The director of that movie also did The Hunt for Red October.
He did Last
and-
Action Hero also.
Yep, he sure did.
Which is amazing.
With Shane Black also wrote a lot of the script for that, uncredited. But Hunt for Red October, great film. I don't know if I'd call that an action film. It's a drama.
Sam Neill and Sean Connery?
Yeah,
It's known
that's
as
right.
it's
and
Sam Neill, Sean Connery,
and Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin,
Alec Baldwin,
yeah.
yeah.
And
That's known as an
James Earl
action
Jones.
film.
Well, no, because it's
known
based
as-
on that
Tom
character,
Clancy,
that Tom
Jack
Clancy
Ryan.
character,
Yeah.
Jack Ryan.
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
Patriot Games.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford played
Harrison
him in
Ford
Patriot
became
Games and
him.
Clear and Present Danger. And then later on, Ben Affleck played him in Sum of All Fears.
And Alec Baldwin only played him in Hunt for
in the
Red
first
October.
one, right? Which is out of all the films, I love Patriot Games, love Clear and Present Danger, but the first film, Hunt for Red October, is the best of all
I think
those
it
films.
is the best.
But
yeah.
I don't know if I
enjoyed Some of
action
All
film.
Fears. I thought that was a good film.
Yeah, I agree. Some of All Fears was good. And then Chris Pine did him a couple years ago in Shadow Recruit or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And now John
That was
Krasinski's
alright.
playing him in an Amazon show. John
Yeah,
Krasinski's playing Jack
yeah.
Ryan. That character's been played by so many people now.
But the books are like outrageously popular.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
It's awesome.
But
Yeah.
The Hunt for Red October, I wouldn't classify that as an action film. There's
I
very little
would.
action in that. That's like a
No, there's a lot of
drama.
action.
It's tension the whole movie.
There's
There's
a-
not.
there's-
Only
I
the
think-
end there's some action, but it's not even that much. They're shooting in the engine room or whatever.
What's the
No,
other
there's action.
submarine
There's-
one?
I think
Crimson Tide.
Crimson
Crimson
Tide,
Tide.
yeah.
That came later.
Is that what you're thinking of? That one has a
No,
lot
I'm
more
thinking
action,
Hunt
I
October,
think,
and this is
than
why I
Hunt for Red
consider it
October.
an action film. Because I think there's two types. There's obviously tons of type of action films, but I think there's actions within character and action within scenario. And I think Hunt for Red October had a lot of action within scenarios. I do agree it's more tension based.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of actions when it came to the tension that was in the scenes.
Yeah.
When it comes to how the crew interacted with what was going on within their environment. Let's say when they actually now you said Crimson Tide. I don't know if I'm.
You might be thinking Crimson Tide because there's a lot more
I'm
going
still
on with
thinking
that.
of-
That was a
Crimson
Tony Scott
Tide was
film.
like-
that was
No,
Tony
No, I'm
Scott.
not
on
thinking
the
Crimson
action.
Tide. I'm totally thinking
Shit got
Hunt for
real in
Red
that movie,
October,
yeah.
and I'm thinking about the.
Still,
the
I don't know if I'd
scene.
even classify that as an action, but it's more of one than Hunt for Red October.
I don't know, man. That scene between Gene Hackman
If you're in
and
a
Denzel
submarine
where
and
he's
you're
like
not constantly blowing
slapping
shit up, if you're in a
when he
submarine, the
takes
whole
him off
movie.
Yeah, no, when they give
know,
him the
he
slap
takes
down.
command.
Remember he's like
Yeah.
slapping him in the face or punch slap. I don't know what he did. It seemed
smacked
like
him.
a
Yeah. He
slap,
smacked
but it
him.
was like a man
He
slap.
smacked him.
Gene
It was a
Hackman
man
and
slap.
Denzel
That
Washington.
was a
And
fucking
Denzel just did
beast
like
that
his
scene.
glory.
But here's the
like-
thing. I think if you're going to
Look
be
back
in a
up.
submarine and you're not going to be shooting a lot and you're not going to be blowing shit up a lot and you're in a submarine the entire movie, it's hard to classify you as an action film. Honestly, there's not a lot of.
I get
it's
that.
not a very kinetic film. Like,
Well,
it's
no,
just
there was a
kinda-
mutiny. It was like that
But even
that
that-
mutiny created the action.
But then in that case, then A Few Good Men could be considered an action film because there's like the code red that they perform on him and kill the kid, and there's there's a lot of
it feels very
tension.
thrillery. It's more thriller than action. I
Exactly,
think.
and I'm like, I
Yeah.
just don't know that I'd consider it an action film. That's all I'm saying. I'm disagreeing with you. So,
Well, you do have films like
stay in
Under
your
Siege,
lane, man.
Under Siege,
Under Siege is
which
how you
is
do it.
definitely an action
Yes,
movie.
that's how you do a film that's
You
action
got
on a goddamn.
Steven Seagal.
Shit,
You got my boy
Gary Busey.
Gary Busey,
Busey.
but
Tommy Lee
also
Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones
Tommy
and
Lee
Steven
Jones.
Seagal have a crazy knife fight at the end of that movie.
Yes,
I think that was
watch
his-
it for that.
That's
That is
his best-
insane.
that's
That
his
was his
best film.
audition to Two-Face.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I always like, but like when you watch that whole film, you're like, damn, Steven Seagal is like, whooping ass. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
back at the time when that film came out,
He's
it was
just a
like
cook.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was
He's
like
just a
this cook.
fucking.
I
yeah,
saw that
he's just a
theater.
But he
fucking
would do
cook.
everything with like hand-to-hand.
a
A
cop.
few times he grabs a gun or whatever, but he's always using like a knife or something. That to me is like terrifying.
I love that
Like
movie.
somebody
Hey, check
coming
my
at
pies
you with a
in it. Check
knife
my
that knows
pies.
how to handle a knife is
Check
terrifying.
my pies in
to
the
me.
oven. Check my pies in the oven.
That's right. It's definitely
that-
better than the second one.
Yeah.
Under Siege 2, Dark Territory
It's
on the train.
That's awful. Don't watch it. But yeah, that knife fight at the end, I was like, I just made me wonder like how much training Tommy Lee Jones had to do because he definitely you get the impression that his character, which is supposed to be this ex-CIA guy,
Yeah.
this ex-CIA assassin, like knew how to handle a knife.
Yes.
Like in the way that his like motions and all.
Gets
that.
it in
Steven
the eye.
Seagal
Gets it
trained
in
him
the
for
eye.
that scene.
He gets jacked up by Seagal, obviously.
Yeah, he trained him for that scene. Did you know that?
Oh, did he?
Yep, there's a video on YouTube. You
Yeah,
can actually
Diego
see it.
makes this
Yeah,
stuff up.
Steven
by the way.
Seagal's a good guy.
Why don't you look at YouTube and you can see it?
Oh, I'll look at YouTube. Yeah, I'm just gonna look at YouTube.
why are you
and that's gonna
holding?
give
Why
me-
are you holding your chest out like Superman over there on a mic? What is wrong with
The
you?
Kumite.
Because I want you to know this is how I intimidate.
He's got a red
So I'm beating
Kumite
my
shirt
chest.
and he's holding his
Yeah,
chest
with-
out
with,
like he's Superman.
It's got JCVD doing
Yeah,
that
doing the
splits.
I
Doing the
get
splits.
that.
I love this shirt.
But it's JCVD, not Nick Gambino.
That's
Okay,
true.
you know what? Don't try the one-liners if
I'm
you
not.
can't fucking.
I'm not trying to hit the
Nah.
one-liners. I'm just.
Oh.
That was just interesting.
Anyways,
This
we're
this is a
digressing.
film, or just not to get to spend too much on Steven Seagal, but another film that I saw a few years ago for the first time was Hard Boiled. John Woo.
Hard-boiled
Hard Boiled.
Oh, that's
with Steven Seagal.
no,
no,
not
no.
with John Cho. No, not John
What the
Cho.
hell are you talking about?
What's
Are you
his
talking about
name?
Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No, Hard Boiled.
John Woo directed
with,
Hard Target.
Chow Yun Fat. Well, you never seen this movie?
Never saw it. No.
as Neil.
Oh, really?
No.
Derails
You've never
from
seen
the
Hard
podcast.
Boiled? It's like with the doves where he's like having a shootout.
There's doves in every John Woo movie.
But
That's
this
his
is like the
signature
first
thing.
dove movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where he like does that whole dive and then the fucking doves.
Is it the
are,
one
like-
where he does this and that fucking gift?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like that's the movie that this is from.
Yeah, okay, I never saw it, but I
Oh,
love
dude,
Chow Yun
we should
Fat
watch it.
and John Woo's early
I
films.
can't believe I
get
found
into.
a movie that you haven't seen.
Yeah,
like
Hard
that's
Boiled.
mind blowing. Have
Yeah.
you seen it, Diego? Hard Boiled?
It sounds familiar. It really does. But right now,
it's-
when you say Hard Boiled, I'm thinking. I don't know why I'm thinking of
Hard
some other
Target?
film. No, not Hard
Van
Target.
Damme?
I do,
because
I
John
know
Woo did direct that too.
He did. He was
this is
fucking
like John
incredible.
Woo's
yeah,
first
Oh,
film.
I know.
That's
yeah.
probably his claim to
I know
fame,
too.
right? Like his first one that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like made him popular in the
Oh,
US.
if you watch this movie and like every other John Woo film makes sense, you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because this movie came out in '92.
Hard
Yeah.
Target came out in what? 93? I thought it was 92. 94? No, 93. Hard Target was either 92 or 93. I thought it was 92, but maybe 93.
No, it came out in
That's-
'93.
93, and that was John Woo,
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme with that
The
terrible
best
haircut.
use of slow motion ever.
Every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. Can't
And
stand
that mullet.
I will say, like, this is
Terrible.
going back to Seagal. Like, as a child, I was. We've already said how old we are. I was. I guess I was like 12 or 13 when I saw
You were
this
30,
movie.
come on.
No, I was 12. I think I was 12 years old when I saw this movie. Cliffhanger.
Oh my gosh! I was just
movie.
looking at that.
God.
Like, was so as a child, it was like
Jeez.
so like I felt like I was like breaking the law watching this movie because I was like it was such a graphic film to me as a
Yeah.
child. Like, and I remember watching it on like VHS or whatever, and it was like, but I love the movie.
Yep.
Like, I just loved
So
the
good.
being at the mountain, and like I loved what's his name is the
John
the
Lithgow?
villain, Jonathan Lithgow. Yeah.
Jonathan Lithgow. You always
I
say
don't know why I
that.
say
John.
Jonathan.
It's
John
Lithgow.
Lithgow. Yeah, and but it just had a huge impact
I
on me. and
remember the
loved
day I went
action
and saw that in
films after
theaters.
that.
I
Yeah.
remember the lunch I had right before I walked over to the theater and watched that movie. Like, that's how significant that movie was.
That was
at
Rennie
the time.
Harlan too.
Yeah,
Did
Rennie Harlan did that. Did Die Hard
and,
2.
Yeah, Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, that movie where they're basically mountain climbers, but then he gets, roped into this whole fucking thing with these guys.
Well, they,
with
like,
the
do- they're
counterfeit.
like,
Was it
they
counterfeit
rescue,
money?
They rescue. They're like a rescue operation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then John Lithgow is on the mountains with the.
So John Lithgow is on basically okay. What the hell is happening? There's like a plane that's like transferring like gold bullion or money or something.
I thought it was
Like
counterfeit. Maybe it's real money. Yeah.
yeah, it was like they were like transferring money in the sky, and then this other plane shows up. Or no, the people on that plane like kill everyone.
Yeah,
bad
one of the guys is a
another
mole.
plane shows up, and they're transferring everyone from one plane to another. That whole scene is insane.
It is crazy.
Like I don't even know how they filmed
Basically,
that shit.
the stuff ends up falling on the mountain, and they have to get down, and like they have to basically retrieve.
And their
the
plane,
shit.
well, their plane also crashes on the mountain.
Does it crash? Okay.
The
Anyways,
money breaks. Like somebody that they thought was dead in the other plane. It's like on
Yeah.
autopilot. Like wakes up and then he like
Yeah.
cuts the cord and blows up the plane or something.
That's right. That sounds right. This mountain climbing scene, like the
was
various
so
scenes
famous.
actually in the movie, were so well shot.
Yeah.
Like that movie feels real. Like
Yeah.
you really feel like these mountains. Like you get fucking nervous when they're up there on the lines and everything. And the
wanna
beginning
say
opening
that
scene, which has been parodied even.
that
he
that
injured
film scene
himself.
was
He
so
broke a
popular.
bunch of ribs. Sylvester Stallone in
believe
one of the
that.
stunts. I think
That film was so
Like,
popular.
fell
They
off or
redid it
something.
in Ace
Ventura When Nature Calls with the
With the
raccoon.
raccoon.
Oh, right.
in the beginning scene. Yeah.
Because that was like the
hilarious.
first. You watch that movie. That's the first 5 minutes of the film. That scene where
Yeah.
they were trying to cross the wire from one end
Oh
to the
my
other, and
God.
then
And
the
then
belt
the thing's
buckle.
through-
What's funny is I
Oh.
did that recently.
And he's holding on to her.
We did that recently.
Zip
We were
line.
zip lining or whatever, and there's this. We did this anyway. We hiked to this one tree that was high as shit. It
Oh
was
my
like
God.
70 feet or something like that.
At least,
And
yeah.
I was the last one to go. So it's like the sun setting. I'm standing up there, and I have to hook myself up to this thing and then go
Over
like
a
this-
road. Over a road
this
with crossing
road
traffic beneath
with
us.
like 80-foot tall trees or some shit. And I'm just like, this is so fucked up. Like, this is-
You were thinking of
There was-
cliffhanger?
oh,
I'm
no,
glad
no.
you didn't say
there
that
was
to me
an
because I would
employee
have shot
behind me.
myself.
There was an employee that was behind me, like going through the whole and checking
That's right.
everything. So I wasn't up there by myself, but it was a little jarring. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, that was the
And you
only
guys
one
are,
I
like,
was nervous
screaming,
on.
like, come on, hurry up! And I'm like, ugh.
That was nerve wracking because you had to hook your own lines up.
And
there was
every
nobody
time, but
with
I
you.
keep
Yeah,
the
'cause
whole
you're not
time we were doing
professional.
that, I was thinking of cliffhanger.
I'm so glad you didn't say that to me because I would have lost my shit
because
up there.
all you had was like
You should have
My
broke
hands
out
are
like
getting
this.
sweaty thinking about it. Like,
Yeah.
You should have wrote down like this. Oh, with your arms sticking out like the scene.
I'm telling you, man. They say put you in this thing, and you're just on your own.
Yep.
And if we fell,
They do,
if
like,
any one of
10
us
minutes
fell
of
from
training.
that, like we'd
Oh,
be,
yeah,
we'd
you're
be
gone.
either like broken
But you're
legs
double
or
hooked.
paralyzed.
You are
Not
double
just-
hooked. You
you're
are double
double
hooked.
hooked, yeah.
That helps.
So if
I don't know.
one breaks, you're still hooked on the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically.
Kind of. Kind of.
But if the second
Not
one
really.
breaks, you're fucking dead unless you fall into
Anyways,
a
yeah,
convertible.
that was great. But
You're basically hooked. Yeah, you have like two cables hooked, but it's all to the same harness. If the harness somehow became unraveled, like
Yeah, now you're just looking for death.
Yeah.
I don't know what are you doing.
that's what happened to Cliffhanger.
anyways, all right, we're
If the tree
digressing.
falls-
We are digressing
We are
so
seriously
much. We
digressing.
are into 93 right now.
If light, all right, passenger
But
57.
here's what we skipped though.
Oh,
Passenger
yeah.
57.
That's
Saw
nice.
that-
Wesley
saw that-
Snipes. How have we not mentioned Wesley
Saw
Snipes
that
up
in
until
theaters
now?
too. What? Oh, Jesus, we are jumping. Here's the thing
no,
we missed.
that was
though.
1992.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we're jumping. We've actually missed all of the superhero fucking genre stuff.
We missed Darkman.
which informs later. Oh my, we
Oh,
missed
Dark-
Darkman. Oh, I'm gonna kill myself.
1990.
I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it. I
Darkman.
Okay,
can't do it.
wait. Let's just reset. Hey, everyone, welcome to Get.
Oh man.
No, see, but here's the thing: we're not going to get to every film. We're not going to get.
This is
to
why
every...
we need to cover these in great swaths, like
Yeah.
just general evolution, because now I feel like we were doing a good job of that, but now we're into our childhood
Well,
movies,
so-
and this is harder.
There's no way we're
It
gonna get
was
through it.
easier. It was easier in the 70s and the 60s to kind of like, and even in the 80s to kind of like compartmentalize all these action films. But then once you hit the 90s, it was like they would just like
a
each
blast,
genre
yeah.
just exploded.
Yes.
You had the buddy cop, tons of buddy cop films, tons of like solo action films, tons of ensemble action films. You just
Yeah.
had like shooting in
Your
every
boy
direction.
Steven Seagal, the first what was it, 1990 or 1992? He had like 2 fucking films, Hard to Kill. No, it was 1990, right?
1990 and Mark for Death.
And Mark for Death.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they were dropping like those,
Yeah.
like there were like nothing wrong with one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're solid films. They're solid action films.
Yeah, they all are. Yeah, it was crazy.
All right,
Yeah,
we
I
need
love
to
it.
try not getting cut into too
So
much.
let's talk about-
because we didn't even talk about Predator and shit
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
then Predator
Oh,
2 came
gosh.
out in 1990. I mean, this is impossible to do. Okay,
This is very
All right,
impossible.
No,
Hawk.
we mentioned Predator in the 80s.
No, yeah, we did. We
talked
did.
about it. Yeah.
We talked
Yeah,
about
but
it.
I mean, we've talked about Predator.
We got
ad
too many
nauseam,
fucking
over
films.
and
Okay.
Oh my
over
gosh.
again. I love Predator. I mean, I will talk about it forever,
Yeah.
but
So
evolution. The
Okay.
focus is
So let's-
going from
yes,
so
one
let's
style.
move forward. Yes.
Let's focus on Passenger 57 and move forward.
Just
I will
because.
say- well,
Because it's Wesley Snipes.
Well,
it's
Wesley
Wesley
Snipes.
Snipes is the first of his kind. You
What?
know
What
I'm
does
saying?
that mean?
Exactly.
Like an action star, like the martial artist. Like he is like Steven Seagal in the
How's-
sense that he's like an actual martial artist.
Totally,
who
but
turned
how does
actor.
he differ? I love Wesley Snipes films, and I will talk the
Yeah.
shit out of him. I'm just saying, why is he different?
I think
Because he's a black man holding his own in
No,
these films. No, that is something to talk about real quick. Eddie Murphy, that's why he was so big in the 80s.
But I think he
was finally a black man who was. It wasn't about him being black necessarily. He was dropped into a world where they were only casting white people for the longest time, and
Right,
he
like
was coming in
the
and showing,
action films.
hey, it isn't about being in a quote unquote black film. He was like, it doesn't matter. He was a black man in a quote unquote white world who was of equal or paramount importance to, like, he was the star.
Yeah.
And then that led his roles led the way for Wesley Snipes to come in, who was charismatic in his own right, not necessarily a comedian, but an amazing actor. He was like a thespian. He
Yeah,
went to
no.
performing arts schools.
There's
and stuff
too many
like that.
quote unquotes in your conversation, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Yes,
quote unquote 2 times.
he was quote unquote like.
I'm sorry, did I lose you?
Quote unquote, my name is Nick.
With a 5th grade education, I can understand how it's hard to keep up with what I'm
So
talking about.
no, I
But
agree with. I agree with you. I think.
I was just
Wait,
trying
was
to. I was trying
Elizabeth
to.
Hurley in
Can you
Passenger
stop it?
57?
Yeah, she was. She was the trader
Yeah.
stewardess girl, the flight attendant.
She was a bad person.
She thought she
she
was
was
good,
a bad
and she ended up being
person towards
bad.
the end,
Oh.
Okay. The reason why I bring up the Eddie Murphy thing to lead into
Again.
Wesley Snipes is because you brought up Passenger 57, and we're talking
Yeah.
about evolution. Why was that significant? I think it was because it was another point where watch those movies like Passenger 57, like Boiling Point with Dennis Hopper and Wesley Snipes. They were movies where it wasn't a quote unquote black film, and these guys were breaking out and saying, you know, they were able to lead the way on the idea that it's not about keeping things in their racial lanes or their racial corners. You know, his partner and everything, like everything was quote unquote a white world where this black star was blending in perfectly and was basically more charismatic.
Yeah,
than
you have
the
like
star of the film.
I totally
if
agree
look
with
at
you.
History,
I'm not
you
denying
had
it.
all
I
these
think
action films with Caucasian
Yeah.
actors,
Then why
and
didn't
then
you
it
say
started to
something
break
about
into
that?
because
like,
you're talking, and I'm not trying to interrupt your theoretical moments.
You're not. You
as
just
you're
saying
speaking.
Passenger 57. You're not offering anything to the conversation. You're just like
Because
I
you
like the
went
movie
off-
Passenger 57. How goddamn basic? You're a basic bitch. You
Did he
are a
not say,
basic bitch.
Before we get into Passenger 57, we need to talk about.
These
And he went,
guys.
yeah.
These
No,
Why don't
guys.
you
no, this
offer
is what I'm
something?
saying. No, I am
Okay, go
offering
ahead,
something.
say something.
But yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, say what you want to say. now.
Well, that's
Chickens
yeah,
Christ. That's exactly what I was going into. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to just cut him out.
He's
a little bit.
apologizing to you and he's yelling at me. Go ahead.
Well, because I cut him off. No, what I'm saying is that because of Eddie Murphy, I think I agree with you. Wesley Snipes had that opportunity. I think he took what Eddie Murphy did and put it into that gritty action films.
'cause he wasn't a
'cause
comedian.
He wasn't a comedian,
Right.
but he added that sparky comedy, that quick sense of comedy to it. Not comedy joke, but just like
He was charismatic as a
clever-
motherfucker.
yeah, charismatic.
clever
one.
into-
Charismatic.
Very
he brought
clever,
that
yeah.
into like
Money Train.
really strong
Yeah.
action films. So I
Which
was
is what-
agreeing
funny.
with you. I wasn't denying you that whole fucking book that you just said. God damn it.
You're finding fault with. You know what? I'm done with you. I'm gonna take a nap and I'll be
There
back
we
when you're
go.
done. No.
But yeah, you had Anyway,
But agreed.
So the whole.
Oh shit, he's taking the sip.
I'm trying to not get mired down into individual films because we're trying to talk about the evolution. So I'm like, if we're gonna bring up Passenger 57, we have to talk about why was that something different? Like, what did that add to the action genre? What was that brought a new thing? And I think
Yeah.
the point was Wesley Snipes was this new character, this strong.
yeah, it was like it became more multicultural. It was like
Yes.
Hollywood was allowing, other actors and actresses, and then it's like the transition from like people like Wesley Snipes to then. You have a lot of female action
Yeah.
stars
Yeah,
now,
which was
is
more
like
like 2000.
unheard of.
That
For
was
like
only the last
50
10
years.
that was
There
only
were
the
no
last
female action stars.
5 to 10 years, really,
Yeah.
that came out. Ellen Ripley was back in the late 70s and into the
Yeah.
80s.
And that's one of the
But
reasons
that
I
didn't
love
really
Cameron
spark too
films
much
so
more.
much, yeah.
Linda
Yeah.
Hamilton as Sarah
Because
Connor.
he
was
he
doing
embodied
it.
women and
Even
and
Jamie
made
Lee
them
Curtis in
powerful
True
characters.
Lies.
Yeah.
She started off meek, but her transition,
Yeah.
she became a badass in that film.
She
and
did,
I fucking
yeah.
love that. Even Tia Carrere, who was like one of the main villains in that movie, was like a badass. He really did.
That film was so good because it had incredible character development. And
In
I
True
totally
Lies?
agree. Yeah, in True
Absolutely.
Lies. 100%. Yeah.
It's funny because there's been this argument
It's
recently where
1994, so we're
Yeah.
on topic.
yes,
We're on topic,
but like
yeah.
James Cameron, like he got some shit recently because he was making comments about Wonder Woman
Yeah.
and he didn't feel like that actually advanced, female. He's like, I didn't feel like it was a layered character, and I get it. He could be a little arrogant, and people are like, shut the fuck up, James Cameron, and it was a very female empowering film. I get that, but you can't fault the guy. This guy has been doing that for 30 some odd years. He was giving you female characters that were multi-layered. He was
yeah.
making them the front and centerpiece, and he was not watering them down, and he was showing them in all their beauty and all their ugliness in everything, and just making them the empowered stars of
Yeah.
his films for a long time.
He did that with
And so it's
yeah,
like
100%.
he's just saying, "Hey, I'm just saying, let's add layers to our female characters."
Yeah. I
And-
mean, even if you look at Avatar, which is way later, but
Yeah.
what's her name? The actress from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Michelle Rodriguez. Zoe Saldana.
Yeah,
Zoe Saldana. Yeah.
she's fantastic.
He's done it in all his
She's
films.
major-
Even Titanic, Kate Winslet was not some just damsel in distress.
Yeah.
She had her redeeming moments where
Correct,
she was very
yeah.
strong
and
character.
it's more realistic.
It is.
No, it's
This
great
Hollywood,
character
like,
development. It's incredible. He knew how to write the story behind the characters. And,
Right, but
and
he was
show
doing
yeah.
it. This is the point. He was doing it, but people weren't taking their cues from him at the time. We
Yeah.
didn't start seeing female action stars like this, really female action stars, until the last 5 to 10
Yeah.
years.
Now, I will say, talking about tough female, not action star, but actresses in some films.
Yeah.
Total Recall.
Oh, Sharon
Sharon
Stone.
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 Even and what's
The
her
other
name?
lady, I
Goddamn,
forget
what
her
year
name.
is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, the Hispanic lady in that,
1990.
yeah.
1990.
That was
wow, that's-
1990,
Was
yeah.
it 90? Oh,
That's
wow.
Paul Verhoeven.
Rachel
Yeah.
Tickerton.
I know. I always forget her
Tickerton?
name. Yeah.
She played Melina and Total
Yeah.
Recall.
But
Anyway,
Sharon Stone.
Sharon
Jesus.
Stone and her were both fantastic.
Oh,
like
man.
Yeah.
there was no. It like got just canceled out that cliche of like
Yeah.
the
Yes.
women's on distress.
And that's Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah.
And,
Who also did Basic Instinct
RoboCop.
and Starship Troopers, which
Yep.
is another one of those
strong female character.
Yeah.
Female character.
RoboCop.
RoboCop.
Was in that, which is his partner in that film was a female.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, you had this, but
Segue.
nobody. It didn't become a trendy quote unquote thing to do until
Michael
the last 5 to 10
Ironside.
years.
My-
Yeah.
Everybody-
how about
Jesus.
how about going into the new boy on the block, Keanu Reeves with Speed, and then
Point Break
Interaction-
was like 1992.
92.
Yeah. And then
he also
that's
did
it.
Speed with
Speed.
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. Yeah.
Actually, I thought she was pretty like.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
she was tougher in that film.
She was
yeah,
very tough,
so
yeah.
you started to get that more, absolutely,
Exactly,
in the
yeah.
80s and the 90s. But I don't think you really saw it take hold until the last 5 to 10 years, which when we get to that time period, we'll talk about that more. In the 90s, yes, you had Wesley Snipes. Denzel Washington didn't really start doing too many action films, I wouldn't say, until the 2000s. Now he's on an action kick.
Yeah.
You know, in the last 10, 15 years, he's been doing, Deja Vu, Two Guns.
Well, he can do these fun movies
Unstoppable.
now. He's already won these Oscars.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't need to play that game anymore.
Right.
I can just do films that I find fun. Like,
Exactly.
I thought
Yeah.
he was great in the remake of Magnificent Seven. I thought that was a solid.
Yeah, he was
that's a
good in that.
solid
Yeah,
film,
Equalizer, he was great in too. Which was
Equalizer,
a
yeah.
remake of a TV show, actually.
I will say, like, this is a film that's what's an interesting thing is because it's. I mean, you've had films like this, but they were like kind of like action drama.
Yeah.
And it was just like a perfect balance of both. Was The Fugitive.
Yeah.
The Fugitive to me, like when I saw that
Love
film, this
that
is
movie.
1993 with Harrison
Yes.
Ford and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yep.
Like it had that movie has so many
I was
epic
just watching
moments.
it like 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, like the scene with the train.
Yep.
Where like the bus
He jumps off the
yeah,
thing.
like
just
the
in
bus
time.
rolls off the thing, lands
saves
on a
the
train track.
prisoner.
Like it's so outrageous that these situations even occur when they're in the sewer
Yeah.
and he's like,
He's- he's
I didn't kill
basically
my
been-
wife, and he's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
you're-
been I don't care. Like his whole
So
job is to
crazy.
bring him in.
I love those films, but I don't know why Harrison Ford was hard for me when it came to action movies.
because like that was
What?
like a that
That's
was like
Indiana Jones and Han Solo. I don't
No,
know
and-
what the hell you just said.
I'm not including those in what I'm saying. Definitely, I know
I'm
it's
not
Han Solo.
including
he
his
doesn't-
iconic
yeah.
When he
roles.
did like I'm
like
talking
a
about the
puncher.
political films. I'm talking about the
Patriot
political
Games
film,
and Clear
Patriot
Present
Games,
Danger.
and
Harrison
those-
Ford's like a hand-to-hand combat guy.
Yeah,
Like he's not like a martial artist. He's not going to run around with a gun and seem slick and cool.
because if you look
But
back at
he'll-
those films-
he'll punch his way out of a
He's
situation.
from the old school.
Yeah, he's old school.
yeah. He always took a long time to shoot. You know,
because
like
he would
just
rather
sat
use his fist than to murder
no,
someone.
it's
in
what you're
cold
talking about.
blood.
Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger. The whole point of the Jack Ryan character, he is not
a spy, yeah.
He's
But he's
not even
not-
a spy. No,
he's not a killer.
He's a data analyst.
Yeah, he's a data analyst.
That's
yeah.
the difference. Yes, he has basic training when he joined. What is it? The fucking
CIA.
NSA, CIA, whatever.
CIA, yeah.
Yeah,
CIA,
but that's the whole point. He has basic training. That's it. He is not a shooter. He is not a spy. So that's why he looked like that, because that was his character. He's a data analyst.
That
who
makes
gets
sense to me,
ball-
but I
he's a
just-
fish out of water.
Yeah.
But come on, this is Indiana Jones and Han
But that's
Solo.
why I love. The
I know it
Fugitive,
is.
because
I'm
in-
not
in
saying
the-
I'm not saying they were bad at all. I just it was. I think I just wasn't into.
I think the
into
thing about The
Patriot Games
Fugitive
and
that I
all.
love that was unique to me as a kid watching that movie was the fact that he was like a doctor. Like this is a guy who was wrongly convicted of doing something he
Killing
didn't
his
do,
wife.
of killing his wife, and but then it becomes this action film where he's like trying to survive.
Yep.
But it's like
He doesn't
I feel like
intentionally
this
break
is
out
like
of prison.
a fucking doctor who's
Yeah.
like accidentally somehow
Yeah.
gets free and then just gets on the trail of
He's
the
smart.
of the killer, and
That's
he's
right.
just very smart. Yeah, and he keeps making all these like smart decisions, which result
Yeah.
in him kind of moving closer and closer to find out who murdered his wife
Yeah,
and
that's
why.
that's a remake of a TV show, actually,
Yes,
from
it
like
is.
the
I
60s.
didn't
Yeah,
know that.
but here's what's crazy about that movie is that is one of the few times they didn't have the script worked out when they started filming. It was not completed. It was not really. They were making a lot of that shit up as you go. That usually ends up working against the film.
Yeah.
Somehow that movie fucking blends beautifully. Like this feels like a really well thought out film, but they were fucking still writing scenes and pages like the day of shooting. It was crazy.
Wow.
Like if you watch the behind the scenes shit of that, it's nuts how they're able to pull that off. Then they did a sequel tying into
Wesley Snipes.
U.S.
Yeah.
Marshals, which
US
they brought back
Marshals,
to Tommy
yeah.
Lee Jones character. Now talking about this whole Wesley Snipes character, and Eddie Murphy kind of leading into that. You also had Will Smith, who started his stuff in the 90s.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Bad Boys. Michael
Bad
Bay.
Boys.
Independence
Day.
Wild Wild West. And then you also had.
Why
That was 1995.
Everybody shit the line.
I enjoyed
It's-
Wild Wild
yeah,
West.
it's
I mean,
'cause-
I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
Because Kenneth Branagh was in it. It's a fine film.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh's in it. Kevin
Klein.
Kevin Klein's in it, who's
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
amazing actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't a bad movie. Selma Hayek's in it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Here we go. Here we go.
It's fine. It's good. It's fine. You know.
Wait,
it's-
wait.
You need to watch it again.
What is this?
And he's got that awesome
Wild Wild West.
he does that song. He does
Wild
like the
Wild
theme
West.
song. Wild Wild West.
That's a
I used to
remake.
listen to that all
That's
the
a
time.
remake of a Cool Mo D song from the '80s. All I did was take the hook.
I don't
from
even
that.
know who that is.
Jim West. Desperado.
Desperado.
You don't want none of this. Six John. You remember that? That's
No.
the song.
You don't remember
like
the song?
that awesome song. You don't
No,
even know the
didn't- I
song.
was listening to hip hop.
The hippity hop.
I was listening to that
Wild
hip-hop.
West. Jim West. Anyways.
We can't forget.
I was like too busy climbing trees and exploring my neighborhood instead of I wasn't
Watch-
listening to pop music.
Watch Nick's eyes. We can't forget our good old assassin Leon.
Oh, Leon the Professional.
Leon the Professional,
That's a good
yeah.
one.
Natalie Portman.
Luc Besson. Yeah.
That was
Gary Oldman.
Very
Gary
interesting
Oldman is
action
amazing in
film.
that.
Luc Besson. That was a good. I saw that in theaters too.
Jean Reno.
What? You saw it in theaters, Nick? What a
My
fucking
point in saying
coinky dink.
here's what I'm trying to say when I say that, okay? I was 9 years old when I saw that in theaters. What I'm trying to say is I'm trying to tell
My
you that
parents
from
would
perspective
not
of
let
a
me
9-year.
see. You want me to tell you what the
My
first
dad
rated-
brought me to see
the
that.
first
I didn't even know what the
rated
fucking
R
movie
film.
was.
Here's the first rated R film I saw in theaters. As like the first time I ever saw a rated R film in theaters. You want to know what it was? The Beach with
Really?
Leonardo
What?
DiCaprio.
Leonardo
DiCaprio?
Yeah,
You were like-
my parents would never have allowed me to see a rated R
Dude, you were
film
like
in
19.
theaters. Yeah.
There's no way.
That's the first rated
were
R film
nine-
I saw in theaters because I could
Wow.
go to the movie theater and actually.
Your parents didn't take you.
No,
I guess that makes sense.
I went.
No,
I know.
no.
I went to the
Okay.
theater by
That's
myself.
that's because he had youth group Friday night and he had to go
Sunday
you know,
school. No, here's what.
I'm just
Uh,
telling
dude,
you, like
dude.
most of the rated R films I saw when I was
I
like
had
young
many
and 10
and
or
awkward-
12 or something were on VHS
Right.
or are rented from like
Okay, I
Errol's
had
or
plenty of
Blockbuster.
awkward moments with my dad. My dad took me to movies he wanted to see, and he loved shoot 'em up, violence, whatever. Like he just loved movies, right?
Yeah.
So we went to rated R movies often, and like watching Showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee in the theaters with
Tia
there's
Carrere.
Tia Carrere, but there's also the beginning scene where he's got the girl bent over the thing with her breasts out, and then he chops off her head with a goddamn sword.
Oh, I don't remember that.
And they show it.
It's dark.
Like that movie's dark as shit. I'm sitting here. I was 6 at the time with my dad watching this in theaters. It's awkward as shit. And I'm sure he felt very weird. But he wanted to see the movie and he needed to take me. He didn't have a babysitter, so we went. This is kind of what we went. There's a story my dad tells. He took me to see Revenge of the Nerds.
There's a lot of
it was
nudity.
either Porky's.
I saw a lot of these movies on TV where they
Yeah.
edited all that stuff out, and then when I got them on like DVD
There
or
was so
later,
much
I was
nudity.
like, I don't remember anything. Of
Yes,
this shit.
there's a lot. We've got Bush. Like, there's a lot of nudity in these
Yeah.
films. But my dad took me to see either Revenge of the Nerds or Porky's when I was a newborn baby. I was an infant. And he took my brother, my sister, and me.
Yeah.
And my sister tells me the story because she's 10 years older than me. She tells me the story. He was
Wait,
like,
I got a question for you. Do you judge people now when you go to the theaters and you see them in there with like a rated R film that's raunchy with like a child in there? With
no,
them?
I only judge him if the baby's crying and like
Making-
and
disrupting your
Yes, that's
experience.
it. Because I brought my baby when she was newborn. I took her to like 7 films or whatever. But once she started crying in films,
Yeah.
I couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ruin the experience for others. But my dad literally walked out of that film because it was too much. Like it was too much nudity.
And he left you there?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. He strapped me. He's like, "Strap in. This is your education, little Nicky." No. He walked out with all of us because
Yeah.
it was too much
Yeah.
sexual. Like there was a limit. Obviously,
It must have been Porky's then, because I think
I think it
Porky's
was-
is far more.
And I think
far
Revenge of the
worse
Nerds was
than Revenge of the
84,
Nerds.
and he
Yeah.
took, and it was 85. I was born 85, 86.
Okay.
So, anyways,
Well, there's like 4 Revenge of the Nerd films. There 4.
yeah, there's 4.
Yeah, there's 4 of them. Yeah.
Anyways, we're digressing.
We are.
really
Leon the
digress.
Professional is a very unique film.
Very
it's
unique.
a lot different
Very-
from
very
most of the films
violent,
that
yeah.
existed at the time.
Just-
But the style of that film is
It's
so
French. It really was French.
so unique. Yeah, which a lot of Americans hadn't seen that style
Yeah.
before.
No.
Natalie Portman, 14-year-old.
Because it was such a
And and
she
it was
was
a
12-year-old.
risky movie. It was
think
like very.
It was a very risky movie. Yeah, 100%. A lot of
Risque.
people have not seen
Yeah,
Risque.
I think
Risque.
Jean Reno played the character very well because it was not pedophilic, if you want to call it.
No.
Like there was no Lolita aspect.
He was
of
clueless
it,
about
but
it.
there was a point where she kind of seemed to like love him, and she said, "I love you," and it was just sort of like she was infatuated with him, and he had a lot of love for her, but it never crossed that inappropriate realm. And if it did, it was only on a pure affinity level. He never made it sexual.
Yeah.
But it was strange because you saw that kind of chemistry going between them, and he did give himself up for her and gave her a future and did all these things for her.
Right.
He did
Yeah.
love her, but it was this interesting kind of complexity to it where it didn't make it sexual.
It was done very well.
I thought
done
it was very
well. I
balanced
don't
very
think-
well, and his performance is what saved it
Yeah.
from being,
Creepy.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But it's
the
a great
film-
film. Like action-wise, it is a very incredible action film.
Absolutely.
It's almost like I feel like The Matrix in some ways pays homage a little bit to that, like the style of this
Yeah.
film. Because if you watch some of the sequences in The Professional, it's like, and then you think about The Matrix, you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of like shooting into these like whatever they call them, the plaster walls, and
Yeah.
blowing off, like chunks blowing off
Yep.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and
That scene where he, in the beginning, where there's that guy in that apartment with all those henchmen or whatever, and he like takes them out and the lights go off, and then like he comes out from the shadows behind the guy and puts the knife to his throat. Like that whole scene is so beautifully shot, beautifully executed.
Yeah.
It was the first movie I can remember going, there is badassedness in like stealth. Like that kind of ninja like kind of, you know what I mean? Like it was very
an assassin, yeah.
I was like, wow, that's like fucking like this guy's slick.
Yeah.
And you started seeing that a lot more later on. Before that, it was like shoot 'em up action, Rambo, all the gun, shots.
Yeah,
are
the
missing
killer's
him.
coming in through the front door, and
Yeah,
it's like
it's
obvious.
just, it's not like ninja like, but that was so slick.
Yeah.
All right, I think we should jump forward.
Wait, I just want to say one movie.
Dude, man.
Wait, I gotta say one
We're
film
gonna skip over the 90s?
that came out. No,
No.
one film that came out in 1995 that was
Assassins.
still. You're fucking asshole.
Did I do it? Did I
Yeah,
catch?
you
Did I
did.
guess
Yeah, you
what you were
did.
gonna say?
Yeah, you did. Well, like
With
Hey,
Sylvester
up
Stallone?
top, high five. Anyways, yeah,
Assassin.
I just knew you were
and
gonna say
Antonio
that.
Banderas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is one of my favorite fucking films of all time.
Yeah, the Wachowski siblings wrote
Yeah, and just how Antonio Banderas acted in it, and Sylvester Stallone.
It's a good
against each
movie.
other. It's an incredible scene. I still remember the movie. I still remember the fucking scene that when they were in the taxi and they're behind this plexiglass and they fucking like try to shoot each other right there in the taxi. That was
and it's stopping the bullets or whatever.
and it stopped the bullets. Yeah, it was just fucking incredible. It's like, and Sylvester Stallone is trying to get him to a place where he's stuck in there and he can get out and kill him. And it's just, I don't know what to say. All right, now we can move on.
Okay, let's
because
just
I'm
move-
just seeing that movie
Yeah,
in my head.
this is actually, I didn't realize we were going to run into this problem with the 80s and 90s. Where
What?
It's like
No,
our
there's
childhood.
I knew
many.
this shit.
I was like, because in the last episode, I was like, oh, yeah, we kind of completely went through the decades beautifully. I'm like, this one, we're getting
No.
stuck down in
There's a
individual.
couple films.
Broken Arrow.
What are
Just
you
a,
doing?
just a couple. A couple real quick. Blade.
Blade. Yes.
Wesley Snipes, he did 4 of them?
Three.
No.
Three.
Three.
There was a TV show, too.
You're talking about doing a 4th one.
Maybe. They've always,
Maybe.
they've
Okay.
always referred. But there's 3 Wesley Snipes Blade movies. There was a TV show, too, but not with him.
Yeah.
No, they're talking about rebooting it
With
with
Morbius.
I figure I just
Morbius. I think
vampire,
in the mix was Michael B. Jordan.
Oh,
Was
all
in
right.
the mix of that too. So
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I just wanted to mention that, like I said, because he did 3
That was an
films in that
no, I
genre,
agree.
and they're
Yeah.
all solid
They were
films.
that
great.
is
You
that
know,
is more
solid
so-
directors.
I still remember the last fight scene. That was one of the first time that they did that speed
Yeah.
when it came to sword fighting in America.
Yeah.
And it was like like you were seeing like how the fuck they're fighting that.
That is
fast?
a martial arts inspired film, and Wesley Snipes was training, you could tell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's what made it. He made that movie, like, honest to God, like that
charisma,
the,
yeah.
the choreography, and that was in 1998.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, that movie led into what we ended up getting with in 1999. That inspired the next decade of action
See,
films.
that's the thing. That's
Well,
the hard.
we should wait on the.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part about the '90s. There was a lot of films that came out that are still going on today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still like,
influencing things today.
Influencing things.
I know.
Do
What's
you have one?
crazy
Go ahead.
is that's like literally 30 years ago.
That's
The
literally
90s
30
is
years
30
ago.
1990
years
was
ago.
28 years ago.
And
That's
yeah.
insane.
And I'm thinking
That
like
is so
That is so
crazy.
crazy.
Mission
When I look at these films
Mission
in my
Impossible.
mind, I think I'm like, that's like, oh, that was like 10 years
yeah.
ago, right?
And I'm thinking
Like-
Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, 96.
I know, that's what I was going to mention. That,
That
was
was
the next film, Mission
that's-
Impossible.
that was when the
that
first
was
Mission
a very,
Impossible came out.
yeah, that
Brian
in
De Palma.
itself is like, I mean, it was based off the TV series and all that, but it's like a very unique film. It's different from James Bond. It's like
It's
this
a thriller. That's an action thriller.
Action thriller, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just but it's a very smart film. It's not like, because
Very.
there were so many action films where you like didn't really have to think. You
Yeah.
were just enjoying
Yeah.
the spectacle.
Yeah.
And this film made you think while it had this like complex action.
Jean Reno
going
was
on.
also in that.
Yep.
But that scene where he's trying not to set off the floor alarm,
And he's hanging.
and the sweat beads
It's
off
still
of his
one
glasses.
of the most iconic scenes.
They have parodied and recreated that scene like so many
20
times.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Brian De Palma did that.
Yeah.
He did
Brian De
Scarface
Palma, yeah.
and all those films.
There was another film I wanted to mention, The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Rennie Harlan.
Rennie Harlan directed it. Samuel Jackson, Gina Davis.
Yep.
A
I love
fantastic
that
action film. Like if you haven't seen it, watch
She
it.
was fucking incredible. in
and
that.
that's another one of the female action
most- yeah.
star.
Yeah,
You know, and like
she was great
amazing
in that
in this film
because
yeah.
he was like the fucking scared, almost incompetent sidekick.
Yeah.
bumbling
She was a
sidekick.
step
Samuel
up.
Jackson. She was the badass.
Yeah, she was.
That was a
badass.
I
She was like a
love-
scary character to me. Like
Trump.
like if you
Yeah.
watch the film, there's like a point where there's like a
she
part where there's that
switches.
reveal. Yeah, where she like remembers who she is
Yeah.
basically because she has like amnesia. But and like when that happens, I was like, as a kid, I was like, or younger person or whatever. This came out in 1996. I was like, oh, this is like scary.
Yeah.
Like this is like your mom
Yeah.
discovering that she's like a deadly
Remember when she almost
assassin or
shoots her own
something?
kid?
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
She's
Yeah.
scoping down the sniper rifle, and then she's like, shit. And I was like, that's just a great scene that adds like tension to the movie. But that movie in general, like that scene where they jump out the window and she shoots the ice so that they can break through it. And
Yeah.
I just love that movie. And Samuel Jackson's comedic, his humor in that was great.
Yeah, yeah.
What,
and
you
that's
want me
one
to put
of
the
those,
gun in
yeah.
my coat?
That's like a
and shoot my
serious
dick
film,
off?
and it's humorous. It does
Yeah.
have some very serious moments.
Yeah.
And there's something about like if you see like Daniel Craig like in Casino Royale getting like tied up and tortured is like one thing for an audience member, but when you see someone like Gina Davis being tortured, it's like a whole different level of like this is like.
Yeah.
It's more uncomfortable to
when
me.
they put her
It
in
is,
the
yeah.
water,
Yeah, it is, yeah.
that water churning, that.
Yeah, there's like there's something about that's like you just don't. Nobody wants to see like their if you see someone, it's like a mom or a sister or something like that or a girlfriend, like nobody wants to see them get hurt. So
and
in
that's
film,
what
you're
turns her.
like,
That's where she
"Ugh."
remembers everything is when they're torturing her.
Yeah.
like that is what
Yeah.
incites the memories. That's what brings it all back to her.
Yeah.
when she's underwater being fucking like practically drowned.
Yeah.
and she remembers everything.
So I'm gonna name one more film, and then we're gonna go into the 2000s.
No, we can't go.
we-
We can't leave the 90s yet. I did
we
have
have
one
to,
more.
Oh
we,
my God.
we
It
have
might
to
be the
leave-
same film.
We have to. Maybe it's the same film. So let me name it off if it is, and if it's not, we'll
It's
just
not
keep-
going to be I know
Because
what
it
you're
was
gonna say.
different. This is different.
Con Air.
I was not going to say that.
Simon West directed that.
Simon
yeah.
West. I mean, think about now you have a
movie.
huge like
John Malkovich,
incredible
Steve Buscemi,
cast.
Nicolas Cage.
Like,
Did we
a
mention The
huge-
Rock?
The
Yeah,
Rock,
The
Michael
Rock.
Bay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Michael Bay,
yeah,
yeah.
The Rock. Yeah,
Michael Bay.
yeah, Michael Bay,
And
Sean Connery.
Armageddon.
Yeah, and yeah.
What's
that was
funny is
incredible.
I didn't know. So Con Air was not. I thought that was directed by
Michael Bay. It looks like a Michael.
Yeah.
No, it's Simon West.
Wow.
He did
Yeah.
like Expendables 2 and stuff like that. It's Simon
Everybody-
West, but it's very much a Michael Bay type movie.
Everybody
Yeah.
thought it was because of the casting. It was Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was also in.
Who did, like, Face
and
Off
the
and all
fame,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
who did Face Off. Everybody thought it was part of.
But he
that
also
whole
did
thing.
The Rock with Michael Bay. Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
did The Rock with
And The
Michael
Rock,
Bay.
yeah.
So
Yeah, but Con Air is a good one.
that kind of to bring it in 2000s. I'm sorry, Neil.
No.
Let him say
Oh,
it's
I
one
thought
movie.
I thought he
The
named
film was Desperado in 1995.
it. Oh shit! Hell
Which
yeah.
is like a very like
Robert Rodriguez.
Very
brought an
unique,
entire. This guy made a short film.
It wasn't a short film. It was a full film. El Mariachi.
El Mariachi.
It was
yeah,
a full film.
was
Yeah,
a full-
and
a
it was
movie.
like him. He like wrote it. He directed it. he
Dude,
produced it.
He
like
made
wrote
this
the
movie
music
for
he edited it.
$7,500. He made the movie.
Yeah, and it's like it's
fucking
nuts, and
incredible.
it's like this. It's a very very well done
Dude, the
action
way
film, and it's
he
like
created
so
his own
different.
squibs by filling condoms with like fake blood type stuff. He would make the fake blood, fill condoms with it, put it in their fucking shirts or whatever, and so they
Yeah.
would hit it. It was like all very stripped down. He made this movie for goddamn nothing for
Yeah.
favors. He got
Yeah.
like everything with favors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic film, but it's like to me that brought about like this whole new style of
Music
like,
and
and then a lot of
Beautiful.
later films that we think are very original, like homage back to films like Desperado and El Mariachi and
Yeah.
some of these like New Kids on the Block. They brought like an element of like something different to the action
Sorry, I
genre.
don't know why
The
I
right
fucking sing
You know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many in the '90s. Like we're just
Did
glossing
you just
over,
name
like,
off
The Fifth
when I did
Element,
that song? Did you just name off the song?
Yeah.
Oh,
New Kids on the Block.
Armageddon,
We're horrible.
1998. I mean, it's more of a ensemble
Yeah.
action film, but yeah.
So
Anyway.
this is how I want to take it in 2000 because you're starting to name off.
I
more
know what
films.
you're gonna say. So use that one to launch us into the 2000s. Go ahead, because we gotta get out of the 90s and
Starship
Neil is
Troopers.
just-
No, no, no,
We
no.
haven't
Alright.
even mentioned Starship
You're
Troopers.
just naming
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
We gotta talk
Yeah,
about
we gotta talk
genre
about
bending, pushing evolution type films. You're just naming movies you love at this point.
A film that totally
Alright. Starship Troopers. though.
added something
Alright.
new
I
to
know.
action, and it
great
came out
movie.
2000.
Yeah.
Romeo Must Die.
Okay, that's not the movie I was gonna say. That's
I
not
know
gonna
it
launch
wasn't.
us into
I know it
2000.
wasn't.
No, there's one movie
But
that's
think-
gonna launch us into 2000 properly. Tell us about Romeo Must Die, but there's
do you
one
mean?
movie.
We didn't even really talk about
Hold-
The Matrix, which is
Thank you, that's the movie.
1999.
No, The Matrix was literally genre defining. Every movie after that copied the style of martial.
You look like you're in doubt. Like
No,
you
no,
don't-
no, 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 no. I'm not in doubt. I was like,
Romeo Must Die is fine.
I don't know
but
what the fuck I was thinking about.
I know,
Because
I'm like, that's 99.
For some reason, I had it in my head that it came out 2002.
Oh no, no, no!
I
That's
don't
the
know.
sequel.
That's
came out
a sequel. That's a
in 2003 or
fucking
whatever.
sequel.
Yeah,
I fucked up.
you sure did.
Start over.
Okay, The
It's
Matrix.
actually a 90s. It's a 90s.
99.
99.
The
Yeah.
Matrix is what
Yep.
needs to launch us into the 2000s because that well, it's not like people weren't doing these films in Hong Kong, but in America, people were not fighting like
There
this.
was
They were
no-
not
yeah.
using wire work
Yeah.
in these ways with these kung fu scenes. There was shit in there that
American
was just like,
audiences had never seen.
no,
Somebody saw
Hell,
an
I'm-
Asian film
you
say,
know,
"We should
worldwide
use those."
audience hadn't seen some of the stuff
nothing
that's
like
in the
this.
Matrix.
This
Yeah.
movie and
Not even-
every movie copied it. Even the Bourne series, like the way in which they started fighting, where anybody who had any training whatsoever was able to do these close combat, quick choreographed, hand fighting scenes
Yeah.
were just incredible.
The technical aspect of that film is just so phenomenal. They brought in new style of fighting. They brought in
It was a low budget
new
film.
style
I
of
mean,
filming.
for the time,
Relatively.
Yeah,
pretty,
new style of filming. I mean, like I still remember
Bullet
seeing
Time?
Bullet Time.
Bullet Time,
I still
yeah.
remember seeing the making of that film so many fucking times and seeing the array
Yeah.
of cameras they used.
They were showing
just
them on
to get
TV
those-
and like every channel they kept telling you like, look at this film, like
Yeah.
look at the way they're making this scene with.
and it was like. It was fucking went viral. Like
It had a
I don't
very-
even think viral was a word then, but it went fucking viral.
Right.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Like every kid was like, I need to learn how to do bullet time. It just, I remember the plugins,
Yeah.
everything that came out for it was just phenomenal. That
Yeah.
film, like really not just in
So
film itself.
just so he described, Bullet Time was that scene at the end. They did it a few times in the movie, but like that scene where they shoot at him and he bends backwards and the camera
basically dodging
revolves-
bullets.
Yeah, he's
Revolves
dodging the
around.
bullet, and it revolves around the whole scene.
Correct.
And it's this crazy looking thing where the camera
Around the subject,
spins
yeah.
around the scene, but they're in slow motion or still or whatever. And they did that, accomplished that by all these still cameras.
Correct.
It was like hundreds of still. Or I don't know how many they did.
And they would
circling
blend
the person, and
each-
they would snap the shot within milliseconds of each other. So it would
Correct.
go right around the subject, and then they would put it together. They would blend the frames together, and then it would look like that. It was incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
It was just
They created
amazing.
it
So
for the
basically,
film.
they made
They
you
used it
feel
in the beginning of the film too. With
Yeah, when
Trinity.
she jumps
Trinity
up.
jumps, which is another,
Yeah.
So they made you feel
action,
like
female action.
the
star.
camera
Yeah.
was moving
Carrie
in
Ann
normal
Moss.
speed
Carrie Ann Moss, yeah.
while the whole world slowed down,
Yep.
and that was the whole premise of it. And how, I think. It
I
was
mean
like
that
1 point-
movie, The Matrix, on like not just action levels, on so many levels, is an incredible
Sci-fi
incredible
and-
film.
And a lot of people
Science
don't talk
fiction
about it.
story
How they
and-
use, how they totally like used color, also the green,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
manipulate your thoughts throughout the
The
movie.
idea that this was the
It's-
computer world was in
you
green.
knew
How
when you were
felt.
in the Matrix versus
Exactly.
like you were in
Yeah.
the
Green
real
tint.
world. Like
They-
everything would, the shit.
There's so much. There's so much technical shit that comes to that film that a lot of people don't talk about outside of bullet time, outside of the kung fu and everything that they did just for that film to make everything so locked into one story. It's just fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just everything literally in every scene had a fucking meaning, had a fucking purpose to why it was shot, color, and everything. You know, like you said, green emphasizing the Matrix. It was just crazy. So
Yeah. No, and so let's talk about its impact on action, right? All these movies, like even Equilibrium or whatever. There's so many movies that took the fighting styles from that movie and just started using them. Everybody was copying The Matrix after that.
I mean, some of them were like blatant copies, but other ones were like more subtle. Like
Yeah.
I would say, like the reboot of the Bond series, where they, I love Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. I thought he was great. But when Daniel Craig,
He
came
could
out
fight.
with Casino Royale, yeah, like that. But it was like that, and they also from the Bourne films, like Jason Bourne. That film or Bourne Identity came out before Casino Royale, but it's like that. It was like everybody was kind of taking little things without being like a copycat. They were like making their film better and their storytelling better
Yes.
by taking things that were successful.
You know what
in
I'll
The
say
Matrix.
they did? Here's what they did. Because before that, Jet Li, back in, 98 when he did Lethal Weapon 4.
Yeah.
So guys like Jet Li and stuff like that, and all these martial arts, all of Jackie Chan's films, even like Rumble in the Bronx and Super Cop and all that, they were fighting like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what the Matrix did is they took regular stars, people who were not martial arts trained or trained in that way, were not advanced martial artists in real life. They took them and they trained them in the art, and that's what they started changing in the 2000s. Matt Damon learned to fight like that in movies. Daniel Craig learned to fight like that in movies. It wasn't limited to a few martial arts stars.
The reason why we took Jet Li, because the only fucking thing we had here was fucking Beverly Hills Ninja
Ha! Chris Farley.
with Chris Farley.
It's one of his last movies, right?
No, it was a few years before he died.
For a few years before. Yeah, don't. Guys, you just drowned my joke in sorrowness. You just drowned my joke in sorrowness.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, I know. But I was trying to say Beverly Hills
get real
Ninja as a
dark.
joke.
You just jumped back about 10 years, by the way. We're trying to move into the
know.
goddamn 2000s.
Wait, I just want to mention, you had mentioned some of these other films. I wanted to mention Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
I fucking love
That
that
was another
movie when
one.
that film came out.
Yep.
I have not seen this Netflix sequel that came out, but this film I saw in theaters, and it
good.
was like, when it first came out, it was only, you could only see it in these like indie theaters or theaters that
Ang
showed
Lee directed that.
indie films. Yeah.
But it was
And,
actually
it was
released. It was a
subtitled.
U.S. film. I think it was a U.S. film, or it was
It's
released
all,
in the U.S.
It's all subtitled. It's like they're speaking Mandarin, I guess. Amazing. Like this, just the story in itself, and some of the martial arts, the wire work and stuff in there.
Where
is
they're
just,
running
like,
across the treetops.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
But again,
So-
these
so
were
that
films.
was the beginning of a whole new genre.
Yeah.
So talking about like
I think the
crazy
Matrix
action.
allowed that to be accepted in the U.S. too, to some degree.
Yeah, I
did,
would
yeah.
agree that. I would agree that. Yeah. One film that took action to a whole different level too. It was Kiss of the Dragon with Jet Li.
Oh yeah, Jet Li and Bridget Fonda.
Bridget Fonda.
Yeah.
How he used those needles.
Yeah, to put them in certain spots in your body and
Acupuncture.
but it was not in a good way.
It was, it was definitely not in a good way. If
Like
you
the
saw
Kiss
last
of the
scene.
Dragon, with the
Death
idea of like
acupuncture.
you would if you put the pin at this exact point in the back of your neck, he does it the villain at the end and it like blows up.
Really?
Yeah,
It's like
it's a good film though.
like that Cronenberg film where the guy's head just
Yeah,
explodes.
The fly, not the fly. The fly.
No, it wasn't the fly. It was oh god. Do you know what film I'm talking about? Where at the beginning of the film, they're like at a school and a teacher's talking, and then some dude starts using he's like telekinetic powers, and he like
Sounds familiar.
one of the students is like looking at the teacher who's on stage talking, and he's just like, and he's like beaming him with his like telekinetic powers, and the guy's
Head explodes.
literally his head just blows up.
I have no clue.
Like blows up, like
Jesus.
Independence Day explosion.
That's amazing.
And I was watching this movie and I just started laughing hysterically because I just didn't know what the hell.
I don't know
I was like
Right.
so confused.
I don't know. I'm not even gonna name the film because
But
it's
don't know
Kiss
that
of the
film?
Dragon, yeah, that was in 2000.
and then
Fast and Furious.
also, well, I wasn't going too fast. I was going to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a crazy
Yeah.
film. That was nobody's reacting to that.
Yeah,
shit.
it was. I mean, I don't know that it was any. I mean,
It was
Saving
like-
Private Ryan, I think, was more.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor to me was like
I think Saving Private Ryan, which we did skip in the 90s, was a
We
turning
did-
point for war films. We didn't talk about
It was a
it.
turning point for a war film, but Saving Private
Action.
Ryan wasn't full on action.
Oh my
It
god,
had
there was
incre-
so
no,
much
no,
action
it had,
in that film.
It had incredible action, just like Band of Brothers. It had incredible action film, but there was like
was a war
Pearl
film.
Harbor had almost like 45 minutes
Yes,
of
'cause it
full
was about the attack.
Because it was about the attack.
But the the D-Day fucking scene at the beginning of Saving Private
Oh, yeah,
Ryan
yeah,
is one of the
no,
most
I'm not-
incredible scenes in any war film ever.
yeah,
Like,
I'm just saying outside. Literally, there was like 20 minutes of action film,
Yeah.
if I remember, action scenes in Saving Private Ryan, because it's more about the story of the soldiers.
they kept hitting
Listen.
different spots where they were
And they
basically
kept hitting
in shootouts
different
and
spots.
There
yeah.
was
It's-
yes, there were
Yeah.
breakup moments, but Saving Private Ryan had a lot of action. The whole end scene, the whole beginning scene, they went to that whole sniper scene where Vin Diesel gets killed.
Yeah, no, I remember
whole
the scene. What I'm saying-
with that guy, the Betty Boop guy.
This guy. Go on.
Why don't you shut your mouth?
When I'm talking about Pearl,
This is the
Scanners.
movie
Oh,
where the
Scanners,
guy's
yeah.
head explodes. Yeah,
When I'm talking
You
Scanners.
about-
need to get off your phone because you just keep researching. You're
He
sending us
keeps
in wrong
popping up films.
directions. You need to calm down.
Watch this movie. It's so great.
so what I'm saying about Pearl Harbor, you're almost having a half of movie
Yeah.
that is full on action.
Yes.
And that was new.
I could
there
see
was
that.
there was no film that I remember, unless I'm wrong, outside of that had half a film be full on action.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
yeah, no, that's true.
That's different. Yeah, I love Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
That's
but that
a
was the
fucking
first
incredible
Saving
film.
Private
yeah.
is the first war film I ever saw that was making it realistic. That felt
Yeah, no, and
real.
Pearl Harbor took of that.
Well,
What? Don't
I mean, you
don't
can
say
watch
Braveheart.
Apocalypse Now. You can watch Platoon.
No,
These are
No.
dude. Those movies were raw, and if you look at the
They're
war
raw,
films
but they're
prior
not-
to that,
no.
when you say realistic, I know what you mean. You're
you know,
trying to
I'm
say
talking about
like
the war. The war
feel
itself.
like a documentary style, like not like a film, but like it almost has like
It
Saving
was-
Private Ryan. The way those shootout scenes are done, it's almost like you're there.
You feel like you're in the fucking like the trenches. Like you feel like, oh my god, when they're getting
but I
shot
wouldn't.
by
I
the
wouldn't
snipers.
credit it like realism and like Platoon was very.
That D-Day scene is is the most realistic. Oh my god, traumatic scenes in any war film. That beginning scene. No, even guys that were in World War II couldn't watch that scene because it's so real.
It was able to capture. I think it was. I'm not down. It's an amazing
Yeah.
film, but I think it was able to capture like the epicness and the
Apocalypse Now,
scale using special effects, which they didn't. Which
I'm just saying, Apocalypse Now and Platoon were not as
Oliver Stone
as
didn't
big-
have access to it like Platoon or
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying when you watch those films, those were more.
I feel like they were breakthrough
Study
films
war.
at the time because there weren't a lot of like the movies that were film based or war based films were more like these patriotic films that weren't trying to be controversial.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Anyway, I just felt like
so here I think
But either way, that's the point.
I wouldn't say it
That's
was
the point. Is it
first
moved it
film
forward
to do that? Like
It
it
moved
did
it
move it
forward.
forward. You're right.
I
It was,
agree with Nick.
it was
I
a good
Yeah, I
evolutionary
watched
film.
Platoon. Here's the thing: I watched Platoon and Apocalypse Now, and I don't feel like I'm there. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a story about these individuals.
I had
and
never
stuff
seen
like
a
that.
war film. Like when I saw those films, like I had never seen anything.
Yeah,
like
'cause
that.
I
yeah,
just
it's
feel
kind of
like-
hard. So Apocalypse Now, I 100%. I think because and knowing how they filmed that fucking film
I
and what
know.
they want, it's just fucking amazing. That film brought out a stage of realism. It
Yeah.
really did. But I think Saving Private Ryan did that also.
I think it was a whole
and
new
going
level.
back
Yeah,
to Pearl
Saving
Harbor,
Private Ryan-
it took from that, and this is part of what made Pearl Harbor really good. It took from Saving Private Ryan because Saving Private Ryan did have that sense, and I think it's what you love. I think a lot of it wasn't just in the scene; it was in the sound. Like you really felt like shit was
Yeah.
coming at you, and you were being attacked. Apocalypse
mean-
Now didn't do that.
Well, like Apocalypse Now and Platoon were two Vietnam vets that Saving Private Ryan was to World War II vets.
Yeah.
Like that's really
Yeah.
the difference between the two. I mean, there are people that fought in Vietnam that watched Platoon and watched Apocalypse Now that were like, freaking out.
By the way, I'm just
know?
gonna say we should never fucking do a genre history again because this is fucking difficult.
No,
There's
no,
just-
no,
I love it. I
Here's
love
the
it,
thing we're gonna do.
actually.
We're gonna go
This is
Fast and
great.
Furious, yada yada yada, Born Ultimatum, yada yada yada.
Yada.
Dark, it's just like, honestly,
Oh shit!
Lord of the Rings.
Don't
God
forget,
damn
no,
it,
no,
shoot
no,
me.
no, no, no,
No,
Don't
no,
forget
we're-
Collateral.
Oh yeah,
That was really good.
That was a really
but
good.
but
That was
again, I don't
2000?
know that it's what
There
did
was-
it move forward? What did it push for? It's a
All
great
right.
movie.
I will
But
say
Heat with Michael Mann would be a more genre
Yeah,
defining
you're right.
thing with the bank
I
heist
agree
film.
with that.
Heat felt like real.
Well,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
move forward.
Same
then.
director,
You
95.
talked about earlier Casino
I was-
Royale.
I think we should
Oh.
talk about that, but go ahead. What we're gonna
I
do.
was going to mention Taken.
Yeah, that's later.
That's
Yeah.
later.
All right,
That's-
so let's
yeah.
let's do early.
Let's start with
early
Casino
2000s,
Royale.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, can we skip Fast and the Furious just because?
Yeah,
Sure.
I did.
Good,
I
thank you.
did. Yeah.
Okay, great.
That went on the road. a
I'm
lot.
sure there's a whole
Bunch of car movies, bunch of things. They did a bunch of things about motorcycles and cars and shit over several years, and it was
It was
all
great. It was a
fine.
great film.
They were all fine.
I don't
here
think
we
I
are.
watched after 2.
Here we are, and now
Yeah,
we're
I
into
think-
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale, which was the reboot or the continuation of the Bond franchise, and I would say Casino Royale
that
is
movie
the best Bond
is
film
a
ever made.
masterpiece. I
It
would
is
also
so
say that
good.
too. I don't know. I mean, I talk to old timers who've been watching Bond forever, and they reference a lot of the old
Dr.
Connery
No.
films, and
Yeah, I get
like
it.
those are the best
Diamonds
ones.
Are Forever. It's not true though.
They're great films.
They are great.
But as far as like you just take all the films together, even the most recent one, Skyfall and
Spectre.
and
Quantum of Solace. even.
Quantum of Solace. Yeah, I don't know, man. Casino Royale is so good. Like I could
It's-
watch that movie
yep,
over
yep.
and over
From
and
the
over
beginning
again.
scene, that intro scene,
Yeah.
where he's chasing the free runner guy
All
through
the
like
parkour,
that whole
bringing
parkour.
parkour into that film was
I know.
like a first.
Yeah, it was
like
just
I
amazing.
I was like,
And then when he
this
goes
is
into the embassy
crazy.
and he doesn't fucking hesitate, he walks, he kicks the door open, takes the guy, pistol whips the fucking guy, brings him outside, turns around, gun to his head, surrounded by soldiers.
Yeah.
That whole scene
I mean,
is bananas.
I feel like some of the other Bonds films kind of like have seen sort of close to that, but like not to the level
He
of quality.
played
like the
Bond.
direction
You
He
did
played
not
Bond
feel the
and all that.
intensity. I honestly, Casino Royale made me feel this guy is the shit.
Yeah.
I think after Casino Royale, I really did not feel the same effect in the other films. I think Casino
agree.
Royale brought out some intensity
Yep.
to James Bond. It was like the
He was
birth
raw.
of James Bond. It was before he had regulations, rules, and everything.
Yep.
This guy
he
was
just got his
fucking-
007 status in
exactly,
that movie.
Exactly. This is why the birth. Yeah. He was just like, I don't know rules and regulation. I'm getting the job done. I get
Yeah.
hired, and that's what he was. He was.
I mean, there's
very
some
raw.
great scenes. I would say I really enjoyed Skyfall. I thought, and mainly I like Skyfall a lot. I like it a lot more than Spectre.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the villain, but also like the set pieces in that film. And Skyfall,
Yeah.
I thought were fantastic.
Skyfall is a beautiful film, really
It's
good.
very
Casino
artistic, yeah.
Royale is just it's a
It's a
whole
better-
other level,
it's a whole different
and it's a movie about going to play a poker game. Like that doesn't make sense. Like it should not be that great. And by the way, that is also the
You got
first
Vespa,
James Bond
man.
book.
You got Vespa.
That's right, Vespa and Mads Mikkelsen or whatever.
Oh God, the bleeding eyes
bleeding
guy.
eye.
Like all that guy has to do
And
is bleed
and then the
blood
guy he owes
out of
money
his
to.
eyeballs, and I'm just terrified. As
And
a,
those
as a viewer.
genocidal leaders or whatever, that African leaders or whatever that he owes money to, and that whole fucking scene. But that movie, that was actually based on the first Ian Fleming James Bond book.
Yeah.
Casino Royale was the first one.
Yeah.
That movie was just a whole nother level of James Bond. I still think it's the best film. I think it's the best Bond film. Period. Martin Campbell directed that, who also did Goldeneye, which was Pierce Brosnan's first film. As him.
Which
Anyway,
is a fantastic film. If you watch Goldeneye and then you watch like Never Say or Never Die Again.
which one?
What was the last
Never
one?
Say Never Again.
That's Never Say Never Again. Is that what? No, that's not what it is. It's like
Yeah, the
is
one,
that
the
the
one
last
with
Pierce Brosnan
Never Say-
one?
yeah.
Oh, Pierce Brosnan. I thought
Pierce
you were
Brosnan.
talking about the Sean Connery one from '83.
No,
It wasn't
no.
part of the canon. When he was older.
No, not that one. The last Pierce
Die Another
Brosnan.
Day. No.
Yeah, Die Another Day.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
That was the last one. Yeah.
If you look at the difference between like his performance and as far as like the action, the level of action, I don't know if it's people be like, oh, he's older,
Yeah.
but that Casino or Goldeneye felt very raw, similar to Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Like that rawness. I think it's
Yeah.
the director brought or directed the actors that way.
Yeah.
Like I want this. I mean, there's that whole scene where like Pierce Brosnan's in the tank driving through that London or whatever the hell it is, just like blowing shit up, and I don't even know how they filmed that.
Yeah.
To this day, I'm still like, did they have a real fucking tank like
Right.
driving
Probably.
through this city? Like it's such an insane scene. I feel
That
like
would
a
be
lot of people
incredible.
forget that.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff in that film.
I would
but-
say that Daniel Craig played James Bond more closely to how Sean Connery played him in the early films. He was a lot more brutal. Like
Yeah.
he was more brutal than Roger Moore was a little more suave, a little nicer.
Yeah.
Swagger.
Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton, George Lazenby. They were all very different. But if you watch Sean Connery, I mean, he wasn't afraid to
I would
smack
say
a bitch
Timothy
up.
Dalton.
Honestly, there was some. He
Timothy
almost,
Dalton to me was more action oriented than Sean
no,
Connery.
No, I'm talking about his attitude. Like Daniel Craig will bitch slap you. Like, and Sean Connery
yeah.
was like that. There's scenes where he like choked a woman out with her own bra or something like that. Like, he was brutal.
Yeah.
He really was. And Daniel Craig is kind of more of that edge and that grit and that like he
But
is
you remember
licensed
like License to Kill?
Yeah.
With Timothy Dalton, like I feel like
Timothy Dalton was
he
darker.
brought like a higher level of action and more that like he was like an early Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. But I think some of these other guys, it make you forget that James Bond has a license to kill. He's not a nice guy. You know what I mean?
He
He's
didn't get
brutal.
it until Timothy Dalton showed up.
Yeah,
That's why the movie's called License
No,
to Kill.
that was the whole thing.
No.
He's a license to kill. He's a license to fuck you up. You know,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. By the way, I don't know if you guys know that I'm excited about this, but the number one casting for the next James Bond has now become Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I heard about that.
He would be a fantastic.
He
James
would be
Bond,
a
I think.
fucking phenomenal.
It would keep it in that
James
gritty. I mean, they were talking about
It
Idris
would
Elba
keep it-
too, which would be interesting.
It would keep
There's
it into
something
that
about James
Casino
Bond.
Royale feel
know.
because I think he has that spark.
I need to watch Tom Hardy in a more like contemporary film because I feel like when I hear him speak in person, like in interviews, like I feel like I couldn't. He just has like he has like an aggressive way of communicating, but like I feel like I haven't seen him in enough films where he's just like playing like a
Normal guy.
like James Bond is a very articulated
Suave.
character. Yeah,
almost,
suave.
What was that
character.
film that
Like,
he
you have
did
to be able to
where he was
articulate.
gangster and his brother?
Legend.
Legend. Yeah, watch that. It's not that great of a film, but you can see him
His
be more
performance,
his
yeah.
performance
Yeah.
be more
I want to see
normal.
if it was filmed with Tom Hardy where he's just like
This
you
means
know,
war.
just talking the
This
whole
means
goddamn
war.
This
movie.
means
Just
war.
talk,
Yeah,
talk,
there you
talk,
go.
talk,
Yeah,
talk, talk.
great
Chris
one.
Pine.
Chris
Okay.
Pine. This means
Yeah, they play two spies. You know, it's like a romantic comedy kind of thing, but it's a normal movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Um,
I need to see to
yeah.
be convinced.
So
of
here's the
him,
thing
man.
about the 2000s.
Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's get off of
That
it.
was
Keep
it.
moving.
So here's the
Yeah,
thing about
2000s.
2000s is that there was a
We could talk
lot.
about Lord of the Rings,
There was
then.
there's a lot of great films there, but it was a lot of rinse and repeat.
Yes, I believe that's when studios started diarrheaing out spectacle films because CG came to a whole new level. It took on a whole new level of what they could do. Such
I don't
more-
know. I don't know
What?
if they're like. All right,
What?
I see what you're saying. You're right. There were a lot of like. It was
How
like
many Lord of the Rings like,
hardcore
copies
sequelitis?
were? Yeah,
how many
but-
transporters? How many Mission Impossibles? How
Transformers? He means yeah.
many transporters?
Oh, even Transporters. I guess there's 3 of those. But
There's
Jason
4.
Statham.
okay, fine.
I know there's too many.
Anyways,
every
but-
film that Jason
But
Statham
it's
does,
Lord of
I
the Rings
feel like
comes
it's
out, and then all of a sudden they have all
forward.
these other fantasy movies that come out that
Lord of
don't
the
do
Rings,
as well.
yeah.
You
Well,
know.
Born Identity.
I mean, you had the beginning of
Spy
Marvel.
Films.
You had the first X-Men movie came out in 2000.
Well, Spider-Man and Spider-Man in 2002. Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was just, it
Uh,
was
Iron Man was 2008.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we skipped all like
You know what?
Superman
We
and
you know what
skipped a
I
lot,
think
but
you
here's the
had,
thing.
All the
you had
Batman
something like a
movies.
resurgence in. You had a resurgence in like the old man action films. Like Liam Neeson and Taken, you had
Yep.
Denzel Washington and Man on Fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
just like these series of films with like older actors, like people in their 50s.
Now
and
doing
on,
action
like,
films.
Doing the, and
Correct,
being
yeah.
like badasses. And you were like, God
They're doing
damn,
more
like,
action now than they did when they were younger.
I know. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like to me, I like that. Like,
And
I like,
even Die Hard was getting all these newer films. Live Free or Die Hard, Die Hard Another Day.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I mean, I
Right,
like that.
Good Day
you
to
know,
Die Hard. I always call it Die
I mean-
Hard Another Day. It's Good Day to Die
It was
Hard.
just it was just a lot of great. Oh my gosh.
Die Hard or Another Day.
Die Hardest Another Day.
Die-
They need to make a Die Hard 6. Anyway.
But that was
yeah. Anyway.
It was just, no. That's just what I'm saying. There's just so many. There was a lot of great films. That's not what I'm saying. But it was a lot of style, rinse and repeat.
Yes, I do
Rinse
agree
and
with that.
repeat.
That's kind of like how this idea that they started pumping out so many more movies in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That is true. And in order to do that, they started basically just digging into what's trendy, what made money. Oh, a superhero film's big. Let's make sure we make our own superhero film. Every studio was trying to get into the big box office. Whatever was making money, they wanted to do, which has always kind of been the formula, but this just seemed to triple, quadruple, 10x what it was.
Oh no,
before.
it was actually called Triple X.
Aha, Triple X.
I just wanted to-
I did
Oh,
not
they
love
just
that movie.
made a
I didn't think
sequel to that. They
made
go
a
to theaters.
Why
No,
would
it's
you
the third
do
one.
that?
They made one with Ice
the
Cube.
third one?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made State of the Union shortly. I did not
shit,
like that
you're
first
right.
one, by the way. That first one with Vin Diesel, it made me dislike Vin Diesel for the longest
I
time.
felt like I don't know. I don't
It
know.
was
Oh,
not
no.
a good
After
movie.
I saw Vin Diesel in Boiler Room, I thought this guy's an amazing actor.
Yeah, he's
And
also
in
in
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
But in Triple X, not feeling him.
I don't know if I didn't film it. I just
Dude,
felt like
my
I,
for this
favorite,
stuff.
my favorite character that he plays is the Riddick character. I love I don't know. People like
Yeah.
kind of shit on those, but I loved Chronicles of Riddick. I liked. I
Black.
liked Pitch Black. I didn't think that was a great movie, but I actually really, really liked Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
I was like so pissed when I didn't do well and they didn't make any sequels.
It was PG-13. No, they
They
did.
did make one
Riddick.
sequel
Riddick.
like 15 years
Yeah, it
later.
was yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I
Okay.
love the story, but we should mention this film
Go
by
ahead.
Zack Snyder.
300.
300.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was an
extremely
innovative-
unique, original.
it
Absolutely.
was filmed
All green
in 2
screen.
weeks.
Yeah.
Filmed in 2 fucking weeks.
Was it really though?
Yeah, 17. No, I'm sorry, more than 2. 17 days.
Was 300 like the beginning of Michael Fassbender's career? Was he
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
movie?
He was in
Yeah.
that. He was one of the
Oh,
soldiers
shit,
yeah.
before he was
right.
big. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
wow.
was filmed in 17 days. I'm sorry, not 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
2 weeks and 3 days. All right. But that's crazy because it was all done green screen,
Yeah.
which also Sin City did that.
Yeah.
And Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow was,
Yeah.
was not as successful as those other ones.
I like that movie actually.
I really
Yeah,
do. Yeah,
it's-
with
it's
Jude
fun.
Law.
It's like
yeah.
It's cute.
Throwback.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the guy who did it in his garage, was not a filmmaker, brought that in a little test thing and showed him, listen, I did this all on a computer. And they were like, what? Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then Sin City and 300 did it better than him. And
Yeah.
he kind of never really caught on.
In a weird way, like you have Watchmen, but Watchmen doesn't really have that comic book stuff. I mean, it does in
Not
a weird
done on
way.
green
but
screen, though.
Yeah, it's not done on green screen, but it does have a lot of like that slow motion martial
Or
arts.
blue screen. Did they do a blue
kinda
screen
stuff.
or green screen?
No, I
We
think
should talk
blue
about
screen was in the
Watchmen.
90s. I think
Watchmen, like-
it started switching over from the 90s.
Yeah.
We can talk about Watchmen.
Watchmen because I feel like that movie is like even today. Like if you watch that movie today,
It's one of the best
tonight,
superhero movies.
it's like such a solid.
I don't agree with that.
Well directed, well acted.
I think it's great.
No,
think
I'm
it's
not
great.
saying. Please don't take what I say like I'm
Oh,
saying
I
that
don't.
movie's
I will,
bad.
I will
don't.
go
I
on
know
a
you
limb
don't.
and say I think
I'm not
Watchmen
saying
is
it was
better than
bad.
all of the Marvel films that have come out.
I'm not saying it's a bad film. I
you-
just
do you
I didn't
agree?
think it was
No.
great.
What,
I
what
thought,
Marvel film is better than Watchmen?
Captain America Civil War.
Yeah, 100%.
Civil War.
100%. I am fucking.
Civil War
100%.
was really fucking
Civil
good.
Civil
War-
War is a good movie, but it just doesn't compare.
Oh
like
my
none of the
God.
stories compare. Like
yeah,
the
it does.
story
Oh,
of
yeah, it
Watchmen, I feel like is superior than all of these.
I think that was.
stories.
I think the problem with Watchmen is very unique. It's very centered.
There's
on
nothing else
their
like it.
fan base.
There's not.
There's not.
There is
And that's
nothing
what doesn't
else
make
like
sense
that.
why Zack Snyder couldn't fucking figure out these other movies
Yeah.
because
But
300 and Watchmen were so good.
But HBO is coming out with the series, so
a Watchmen,
Watchmen
series.
series.
Watchmen
yeah.
series, yeah.
Really?
So I'm very interested in seeing that.
know.
So I'm not
I
saying it
thought
was
Watchmen
bad
was
at
great,
all.
though. I
I'm
thought
just saying
Watchmen was great.
I think it was very focused on the fan, very focused on. It was unique and it was very focused on the comic book, the following that it had. It wasn't like a really.
It wasn't
broad
trying
film.
to appeal.
It wasn't
I don't
trying
think,
to
the
appeal,
masses.
and I
it
think
was trying to appeal to the people that knew what
was
it was. I had no idea what Watchmen
Exactly.
was. I didn't know what 300 was. I thought 300 was just some original thing, and then later I found out I was like, oh, it's based on a graphic novel. Like,
yeah.
okay,
Correct, yeah.
cool. And same
So-
thing with Sin City.
City.
But I loved the way it was. I love the style I love
It's very
like
unique.
the style, the direction, and the darkness. Like
Sin
all
City, though,
those
is
It was
on
like
a
a
whole different level. Like when it
very
comes to that,
dark
that movie
style,
is so original.
Dick Tracy type of feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, like, I don't know. I like unique things, but like Watchmen is different from all of these Marvel and DC films in the sense that even now you don't see too many films that do this, but it takes a superhero genre, flips it on its head, and the bad guys win. Yeah. Kind of at the end.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
It's like a 3.5 hour film.
the way
or a
that ends,
3-hour
I was like, oh shit.
I just felt horribly bad for the people that went to watch that in theater and
I saw it in theaters, yeah.
and saw the big ass blue penis.
The big monster dong.
dong, yeah.
The dick and nuts
Which
just
is
swinging
so-
in your
all right,
face. I
when
saw it in IMAX
that film,
3D.
I was kind of like, oh, this is jarring. Like, you normally don't see this. But then I thought, I was like, this movie's so crazy. Like, they just don't give a fuck.
I know.
They don't give a fuck. Like, you're going to have giant blue dick guy walking
I know,
around
and
and not give a fuck.
And
I
those
was
two are
like,
fucking in
I
outer
have to
space and
admire.
everything in one scene.
Yes,
and,
I'm
yeah.
like, you have to admire the director to just, like, leave all this shit in. Like,
You
he didn't
gotta
give
think
a
about
fuck.
like
Rorschach
love
was my
that.
favorite from that. Rorschach.
you gotta think about
He's like
all,
Stanley Kubrick. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
give a
yeah.
fuck.
all the women that were sitting in that theater that looked at their boyfriend and said, "Yeah, I kind of gotta move on."
Blue balls for real. Anyway.
But so
It's- yeah.
one more film.
Jesus Christ.
No, this is just because we talked about a lot of duos with Lethal Weapon and everything. One of the
cops.
greatest duos that we had in the
Rush Hour?
2000. No, not Rush Hour.
Because we
but
did
I'm-
skip Rush Hour, by the way.
We did skip
Go ahead.
Rush Hour, but I was actually talking Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
That was
Oh,
a really
yeah.
good movie. I don't know if I
Yeah.
call it a buddy cop because they're fighting each other.
No,
the
I didn't
whole
call
movie.
it buddy cop. I said duo.
Yeah, I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
shut up. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith is. I love that movie. Doug Liman did that. Who
Exactly.
did Edge of Tomorrow?
Yep.
Who
Yeah.
did American Made? Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Born Identity. Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
Smith was fucking brilliant.
It
I
was
love
incredible.
that movie. There's
Exactly.
it's like got the right balance of humor and action and charisma and storyline and this whole idea.
Home feeling, spy feeling.
Isn't it funny when you have the right director? They just know what to do. Like
Exactly.
that movie could have just been a shout out whatever film that kind of just dies because
Yeah.
it's sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
A husband and wife are both spies and neither one knows that they're spies,
yeah.
play for competing organizations or assassins. Really,
Yeah.
they're not spies; they're assassins. And then they fucking find out, and the tension and the way in which they kind of play
They're
it
fucking
off.
still going home together. Oh, my gosh! it
And
was
that scene
fucking
where they
incredible.
both
on the
kind of
ruse.
know, and
Yeah.
they're not letting each other know that they know, and they're sitting there, and he thinks she poisoned it, and then drops the wine and that whole thing. She grabs the fucking glass as it spills, and then drops it. That whole fucking, and then they both get up and walk out and grab guns from different rooms, like the hidden
That was
guns.
just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they're trying to kill each other, and then they fuck like on broken glass, and it's just such a good movie.
Yeah.
And then how they go out at the end, and it begins and ends with a therapy session.
Yeah.
Great movie. That was a good call. It's just a
was.
good movie. It's a great movie. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
You also have the Ocean's 11 movies.
You have the
Wanna talk
Ocean's
about Brad
11.
Pitt.
Yeah. You have a lot of films, and
I would say, yeah, like one of the biggest evolutions I would say is just the complexity and the original. Like somehow action films became more original and kind of like passed out of the cliche
Yes.
into films
More
like
meaningful.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like that, and it was like an action film, but it appealed to
Story
everyone. Like
driven.
if you were married and you watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like you can relate to some of what.
Yeah.
Like you're not necessarily
exactly.
an assassin, but
Yeah,
you can
but placed
relate
in
to
the assassin world.
Yeah, some of these awkward
Yeah.
situations or whatever. You know, as a husband and wife who have like this
Yeah.
like hidden thing or whatever. And it's just like
It's all about secrets in marriage. It's just placed in a different world.
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
It's very smart.
It's like it was there before, but it's like they just broadcasted. You love bad guys. You love when they kill someone, and that's what happened in the 2000s. Like you really supported like the death of a bad guy,
Yeah.
and the scenes became. They had that mean. A lot of the scenes had that meaning behind it, where you saw I wouldn't call them good guys. When you saw spies like torture, like a bad person, you supported it. You
Right.
know, like you.
It sounds
Casino
dark
Royale,
now. When
James
you
Bond.
say it that way,
you got-
it sounds
it's very dark. I mean, but you got to think about it. It's very dark. I mean, James Bond literally fucking killed people and he tortured people too, and you supported it
But
because
you're like,
it was
did
for
they-
the cause.
You're a piece of shit.
I
is what we're
would
trying to
say,
say.
I would
You know,
say the
we
director
are.
or the direction of these films like manipulates you in a way to support
to support the actions.
to support the quote unquote good guy who's running around murdering people, yes, and torturing people
And
to
even
get
the bad guys,
information
too.
for his own ends. But it's like we've been, programmed to be like, oh, when we start this film, this is the guy that we want to support.
Yeah.
And anyone that opposes him, we root for them to die.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's
But
if
that,
you
the
recognize that you've just
anti-hero
been-
has really found its footing, I think, in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. The anti-hero, the idea of the bad guy who's really good. Not really a bad guy, but a guy that doesn't have as much of a moral compass that points north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's doing things that you're like, even Deadpool,
Oh yeah.
There's a reason behind. There's
So I don't think we really need to talk too much about all the superhero movies because we have done several episodes on DC and Marvel films and so on. But we obviously know that we're in the era of the superhero.
We are
DC
now.
films, Marvel,
It's
other ones.
unfortunate.
Yeah, whatever.
I'd like to see more films like Gladiator,
Yeah,
Children of Men,
I do agree. Yeah, Gladiator was great.
Kill Bill.
Gladiator is one of those few action films, just like Braveheart, that basically it was definitely an action film, but it won Oscars. That's very rare for an action film, but some of them do it, and Braveheart did it, Gladiator did
Gladiator
Yeah.
did it.
Dark Knight even. Dark Knight,
Which
even
is
Lord of the
kind of-
Rings, Return of the King.
I mean, it's a little unheard of. You did have like True Grit, like where you had older films where it was like an action-y film or an action star get nominated or win an
Yeah.
Oscar. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. It was like a big I mean, this is a film that like people can watch and just be entertained but it was like that level of writing and directing and acting that just excelled it out of that like I don't want to like throw any of these action stars under the bus, but like
I get cliche.
it took it out of the cliche of like the Sylvester Stallone, the Bruce Willis, the Mel Gibson.
You could place them in any
Although Mel
scenario.
Gibson is in Braveheart.
I know, he
got
directed it.
nominated.
Directed it.
I know.
But now we're in the era of the superhero film, and also in the last few years, we've started to see this evolution of female-driven action films. Action starts Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron, just women kicking ass, Wonder Woman, and obviously Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road as Furiosa, which was awesome. And all the females in that film, like there's just kind of we're in that era where it's like. Even that new Natalie Portman movie, Annihilation or whatever that's coming out, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
So it's now we're coming to this point where it's like they can kick ass too, and we're seeing that in film.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's only been peppered into cinema over the last several decades, but now we're seeing several, and it's becoming trendy and the in thing
Old
to
film
do,
trends
which is
are
good.
dying.
Which is
Yeah.
it's forming this new kind of thing. It doesn't have to just be guys.
It's the same thing that's happening in society. I think old trends are dying off, and new trends things are opening up. Doors are opening up for different whatever genres. More, it's not just an action drama. There's so much more into it. There's more depth to it.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think it's incredible. So.
Well, Jesus, and so we don't get into a part 3. Let's just.
I mean, you're jumping from the 2000s, 2010 to now, which is 2018.
It's just
I mean,
been like a
there's
rocket
so many
ride
films.
of films. Anyways.
There's a lot. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, there's so many films.
I mean, I think now there's more, independent freedom for film creators to make something original. So you have in the last 15 years, we've had so many things that we've never seen before in cinema, and that maybe it's just because of the popularity of cinema in general worldwide has grown so much that it's given creators the ability to make stuff that's never been made. Whereas before, in the past, like when we were talking about the previous podcast, like the 60s and the 70s, it was like they were kind of making the same thing over and over again because they knew people liked it, and they knew people would pay money for a ticket, and they knew people would buy the film later on when I guess VHS and all that stuff came out. But,
and there were less films being made back then, and they weren't all action. Now you have so much action. That's why it's so hard to cover these last 2 decades, because it's at least 10x the amount of movies being made.
Oh, yeah.
And action films, and blow them up, and huge spectacles, and small, gritty, intimate action films.
Yeah.
And
for people like us that have seen a little bit of everything, it's like when we see something that's unique and different and stands out, we're like, I've never seen anything like this before. Like this, everyone has to see this because I've seen 10,000 movies and nothing like this has been made, or it's been 70 years since something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep moving forward. I think it's just down to the accessibility to make a film is out there in the open, and this is what you said. Independent filmmakers are coming out, and because you can buy a camera and make a film, and then get to a point where you can actually get funding for your film and create something incredible.
Yeah.
And so many films are out there, and it's just amazing. And that's why we can't fucking
right,
keep
and as
going.
long as you have the right fight choreographer and
We could talk
stunts
for
and so on.
another 3 hours about
You
the
can keep going.
2010.
Exactly.
So-
I know, but
and
this
the
is
last
too
8
many.
years.
Yeah.
But I would say the other thing on that independent filmmaker thing, a lot of the films that are coming out now, like Last Jedi, Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like all of these films that are coming out are being made by kind of like indie filmmakers,
Yeah.
like people that have started out,
Newer-
did like
newer
low budget
guys.
films, and then are getting picked up by these huge studios to make these big budget films, these
Yep.
$300, $400, $500 million
Don't
films.
give up, people.
I know,
You
it's
can do
crazy.
it.
It's like
Yeah.
it's a crazy, it's a crazy world we're living in
Crazy
right now.
time.
It's crazy times, yeah.
Well, check it out, people. Check out some of these films that we talked about.
Yeah, the list
Basically,
of 1,000
the list
films
of
we
1,000
talked,
film, yeah,
talked about in the
I
last
didn't
2
even mention
episodes.
John Wick. I can go
All
on.
right,
I know.
all right,
Keep
keep
going.
going.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So, but check out some of these films that we talked about from the '90s, from the 2000s. They're awesome films. They're films that we love, that we want you guys to check it out and have a passion for it, and fall in love with them also. So, thank you for joining us at Get to the Podcast. That's Get to the Podcast with the number 2. My name is Tiago de Souza,
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
and No Country for One Old Man. I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, wait, do we go?
Is that an action film? I don't know. It's an action
Oh,
film.
the scene is in it.
Shut your face!
You shut your mouth.
We didn't even mention the raid.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.